Well, good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's wonderful to see all of you here. Uh, this is really a special evening. I was as we were getting ready, we saw that this entire journey of the Biennial Summit, the Dance Movement Therapy for Change Biennial Global Summit, started out in 2014, and the journey uh, has been amazing because in 2016, for the very first Biennial Global Summit on Dance Movement Therapy for Change, it happened in New Delhi. The second Biennial Global Summit on DMT for Change in 2018, that is December of 2018, happened right in Mumbai. And now the third Biennial Global Summit on DMT for Change 2020 is happening literally globally because we are joining in from different parts of the world, and for different um, facilitators, participants, um, we're here to really invest these 3 days. That's true. We are at the start of it, and this is always an exciting place to be because we are right here. And how are these 3 days going to unfold for us? How have you planned your day so that you can definitely be with us and be part of the entire summit from start to right when together we close together on Sunday evening India time. So I'm hoping that you're going to be with us most of this journey of discovery, unfolding, understanding, and we're going to have so many amazing minds join us who've actually been working in their respective fields for pretty much a lifetime, and it's going to be fantastic how they share their you know condensed gems with us on the different wellness tools, the different approaches, their different thoughts that they're going to bring to the table. And I invite all of you right from the get-go to as you're jotting down your own thoughts, as you're putting down your takeaways from every session, let the chat be open at all times for you to go ahead and put down your thoughts, put down your takeaways, put down your questions, and we're going to make sure that we're going to be as engaged as we possibly can. So I'm wishing you, and I'm sure you're wishing all of us, all the best as we get into this space of technology. And technology is also going to be our partner on this summit. And we're hoping that we're all going to have the best connections as we connect. And there is so much for us to invest in this time together. So many hellos and so many highs coming in from different parts of the world, and I think that is beautiful. All you need to do is well, do that. Say hello or hi or welcome right now. Let's get the chat activated, so to say, and let's get ready for the summit that is pretty much going to unfold in a couple of seconds from now. And this is going to be beautiful. So I welcome all of you. My name is RJ Keisha Lobo, and I've been a radio jockey for a really long time. And I also am a YouTuber. I have a channel called Mind Your Health. But what is really special to me is that I am a dance movement therapy practitioner, and I got my diploma with Kolkata Shomved and TIS. This was way back in 2016. And since then, I've had the opportunity to be associated with and work with this beautiful space of dance movement therapy. So let me take you into what the entire topic is. What are we going to be focused on as we move into the summit this year? Yes, welcome everybody. I can see the hellos coming in. I can see the highs, the good evenings. I'm sure there are good mornings as well, good afternoons, because we're joining from different parts of the world. So it's amazing in a way that we're not in a physical space, but we've kind of transcended into this virtual space of bringing ourselves, bringing, well, we're definitely here physically in front of the screens, right? We're watching what's happening, but I'm inviting you to bring your mind and bring all of you into this space right now. So let's have a mindful smile. Go ahead. Yeah, be aware of the smile that's gently breaking out on your face right now. Yes, because you are joining this space. You are here right now. You're here, and I'm hoping that you're here with the entire excitement and energy of actually being in a beautiful auditorium with us. Think of it. Think of all of us actually having that stage in front, actually having the beautiful big auditorium, and us sitting there giving our 100%, our energy and our excitement to whoever joins us on this screen. And remember, we're going to feed off each other's energy and each other's presence here. So welcome. Welcome as we delve into the topic, which is role and relevance of dance movement therapy and creative art therapy for the health and well-being of people, adults and children across populations and across the globe during this time, during the COVID-19 pandemic. So while you're here joining us at the start, yes, I'm enjoying saying that, because while we're here, the entire journey lies in front of us, right? And that is exciting. This time of learning and exchange, of sharing and understanding, it's going to be phenomenal. So the third Biennial Global Summit on Dance Movement Therapy for Change 2020. Welcome each and every one of you. This is your investment in yourself, and it's my investment in mine, and it's going to be our time together. So as you join us right now, it's time for us to go ahead and express, feel, and celebrate the power of DMT and creative arts therapies. So if you are ready right now, I'm going to invite you, as you're seated or if you're standing, to kind of engage your entire being into this time. And we're going to start out right now with the inaugural welcome dance by Kolkata Shambit senior DMT practitioners. They're going to be joining us on screen. But as you watch them, I'm going to invite you not to just be a spectator, not to just sit back, but to go ahead and lean forward and move with them. Whatever allows you, whatever connects with you, whatever movements call to you right now. So you're seeing them on screen right now. The cameras are on, and it's time for you to say a big hello to each of the Kolkata Shambit senior dance movement therapy practitioners. So when they wave out to you, please put your hands together for them. We welcome Mehraj Khatun. We welcome Jhuma Das, Sandhya Karmakar, Suktara Khatun, Jharna Naskar, and Shrija Devnath. The music is based on a Tagore song, and we have with us Gaurav Das on the harmonica. So let's feel the rhythm in our body, in our mind, and in our spirit. If you are ready, let us all get together with the senior dance movement therapy practitioners from Kolkata Shambit and involve ourselves, immerse ourselves in this beautiful inaugural welcome dance. Beautiful, wasn't it? Thank you so much, so much. And I'm hoping that all of us could kind of start to move, start the warm up in our bodies right now. Thank you so much to all the senior dance movement therapy practitioners from Kolkata Shambhed who joined us on screen right now. So this is where we are, right? We're sitting here, we are ready, and this entire this entire third biennial global summit on dance movement therapy for change is an international level consultation. So we have this beautiful event that has been organized by Kolkata Shambhed and Center for Lifelong Learning, CLL, School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. So right at the very start, I want to say thank you for getting all of us into the same space right now to immerse ourselves into wellness and into understanding what we want to take away from these 2.5 these 3 days together. So well, it's time now for the welcome address, and I'm going to invite the professor and dean at the School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, someone whose areas of engagement and expertise include mental health of women, children, and adolescents, gender, sexuality, sexual violence, including child sexual abuse, reproductive and sexual health, counseling, and research. She is also the project director of two field action projects, Muskan, the Child and Adolescent Guidance Center at TIS, and Terasha, a community-based recovery and reintegration project for women living with mental health issues. She is associated with several corporate organizations on prevention um, of sexual harassment of women at the workplace, and she has published in national and international peer-reviewed journals. You can see her on screen right now, so please put your hands together, and I believe you are. It's going to be thunderous as we welcome Professor Shubda Moitra. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Keisha. And I must say that was a really moving, flowing, and a lovely performance. So warm welcome to this third biennial global virtual conference summit on dance movement therapy, co-organized by Kolkata Shambhed and Center for Lifelong Learning, School of Social Work, PISS. Uh, we hope and I look forward to a very, very engaging 3 days. Uh, we have some wonderful panels together here, uh, and this is really going to be engaging. I must also congratulate the organizing team for continuing to organize the biennial summit uninterrupted since 2016. COVID or no COVID, here we are in 2020, in the midst of COVID, doing what everyone is doing now, doing it on virtual. But who would ever imagine that we would, have a performance live right here on Zoom? So welcome again. Dance movement therapy and TIS engagement with dance movement therapy, I remember, goes way back to 2013, if I remember correctly. Uh, we have actually the course that I teach on counseling and therapeutic interventions. We have mainstreamed dance movement therapy as one of the inputs, theoretical and practical inputs for the students of MA social work in mental health. And therefore, in 2013, we had in fact invited Shohini to do a session, a whole day workshop with our second year MA social work mental health students. And from then on, it has continued uninterrupted. We have one or the other dance movement therapist trained by this group to come and do sessions with our children. When we talk of dance movement therapy or creative and expressive therapies, there is ample evidence on the ground from the field to say what is the effectiveness of these, not only in therapeutic settings, but also in developmental settings. Uh, so people who need to heal derive a tremendous amount of strength and fluidity, I would say, from these creative and expressive therapies, but also in developmental settings where there are no mental health or clinical issues. I remember way back in 2002, in the aftermath of the Godhra riots, Muskan, which is one of the field action projects that I look after, had decided to intervene with children affected by the riots. They were in a refugee camp, and we decided to use play and art forms, not to heal them, because we understand that healing doesn't take place in 2 weeks, but to restore lost childhoods as a result of riots. Children were uprooted from their surroundings, from their homes. They had stopped schooling. They were in a refugee camp far away from their place. And for 15 days, we just played and engaged with children using different forms of expressive and creative therapies. More recently, in 2018, one of my PhD students undertook her thesis on use of drama therapy with survivors of child sexual abuse. And as one of the outcomes of the PhD thesis, of course, she wrote up and a wonderful analysis. But apart from that, the women she was working with, they decided to create a play, a drama on their experiences. And this was staged at primarily in Bangalore and a couple of shows in Delhi, not professionally. And in fact, at one point, a group called them to say, will you perform? And one of the women said, well, I don't want to be a professional survivor. I think that was very beautifully said. So it was, here was drama used to express themselves, but also to heal from experiences of child sexual abuse. We will hear over the next 3 days, 2.5 days, about the use of dance movement therapy in different settings. What is the scope? What are the delivery methodologies? Also some narratives. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to hearing also some narratives around the change that has happened as a result of dance movement therapy. So congratulations once again. Shohini, Sabiha, I must name you, but I know there are huge teams behind you who have worked very hard to put this together. Congratulations, and once again, on behalf of the School of Social Work, Kolkata Shonved, and Center for Lifelong Learning, a very, very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor. Well, we said it's going to be a warm start, and you're definitely feeling that this is our space to be in. So, you've definitely welcomed all of us, and it's time now for us to kind of feel warmed up in our body as well. Are we all ready to do that? So, while you're getting ready, I am going to invite you to kind of just move different parts of your body that I'm going to call out right now, but let's gently start getting warmed up right through our body. And at the very start, I want you to just kind of move your neck around a bit. Yes, are you? And your shoulders just up and down or front and back. Yes. Giving you some more time and space to do that. But while you are warming yourself up, and I'm hoping you are at home, gently, we're going to go ahead and get our entire body ready for making sure that we can immerse ourselves in every experiential session that comes up. But right now, we're moving on because we are going to be inviting someone special for our inaugural address. So if you are ready, we're going to invite director at TIS Mumbai, someone who, apart from being a director and professor in the School of Health System Studies, TIS Mumbai, is also the program director of Saksham, which implements the TB HIV counseling program in Mumbai in collaboration with the Mumbai District TB Control Society and a board member of AIDS Alliance India. She serves on the scientific advisory committees and technical review groups of many national and international organizations and research studies. So please welcome, put your hands together as we invite right now Professor Shalini Bharat to join us on screen, director at TIS Mumbai. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. um, Thank you all very much. Thank you, Keisha, for those lovely words. Professor Shubhda Moitra, Dr. Shohini Chakrabarti, Dr. Saviha Vasi, Mr. Raj Mariwala, who I think is going to be attending or is attending already, the team of Kolkata Samved, and all my other colleagues and friends and staff and students, if they are joining, a very warm welcome to Kolkata Samved's third biennial DMT for Change, Role and Relevance of DMT and Other Creative Art Therapies in Promoting Health and Well-Being in COVID Times. I'm very pleased to be in this biennial, and what a way to start. Yes, COVID or no COVID, as Professor Moitra said, here we are. So let me just share some thoughts and maybe reflect on a couple of issues at this inaugural address. Dance movement therapy is an affirmative approach that takes us away from a very biomedical kind of an approach of health to a more humanistic approach to health and well-being. So we don't just talk about health, but we talk about well-being, we talk about happiness, and that's what we should aim to have. For the last several decades, we have realized the power of alternate therapies, including various art forms like music, dance, theater, folk art, and even puppetry, and many other creative forms and arts like even sculpting, pottery, etc. And many people have just done these things just to get a sense of balance in their lives. Dance movement therapy has been recognized as an influential healing method for over 5 decades in many, many parts of Asia and Africa, and even in the more developed worlds. In many parts of our own country, we know that women have often taken to painting and singing to ease their suffering due to loneliness, whenever their men have gone to war or to work, or even sometimes when they have deserted them. Their collective singing and making artistic objects have a soothing effect on their mental anguish and lessening their pain, and the sense of loneliness. We have often not acknowledged this fact, but if we care to ask these women, we would know what group singing or group dancing, etc., does to them. I know in many parts of states where men are absent for most part of the time, women have taken to doing group embroidery, group any form of group expressive art, and to share in the sheer making and doing of things collectively. Kolkata Samved has firmly established dance movement therapy as an alternate healing method for survivors of sexual abuse and violence, exploitation and discrimination, marginalization and neglect. And they have been active in this field for nearly almost 2 decades, or a little less than 2 decades, but enough time for them to say that they have arrived. And we saw the beautiful dances and the rhythmic flow actually coming at such a late hour of the day, for me also made me feel so relaxed and so very calm. And I'm very happy that Tata Institute of Social Sciences has been a part of their journey. Our Center for Lifelong Learning, now with the School of Social Work, has collaborated with Kolkata Samved to develop teaching and research programs so that we give to society the much needed expressive arts practitioners. But we have to expand the scope, the widen its widen this program and enhance the reach to many, many more centers, so that we collectively form a very big human resource in this particular field. And I think we have already taken a very good lead. There is a plethora of evidence that creative art forms have an important role in making our societies more inclusive, just and empowering. However, there is a need to develop and to generate local evidence and data in order to promote their value and significance in the general population. I would think that we still do not have as much awareness, and whenever you look for funds or you look for any policy directives, there is a need among policymakers, program developers, and in the government to ask for evidence. So I think that is something which we now need to move towards, and I'm sure with Kolkata Samved and CLL and School of Social Work, this would also happen. In the field of HIV, where I have done some bit of work, I know that creative arts have been used in multiple ways to give expressions to the mental anguish and disturbance in the lives of positive people. But primarily, I've seen this in Africa. They've had, big projects of collective, bricolier making, where people bring pieces of uh, cloth from their homes and they all sit together and sew them together, so that in a sense of, or in a expression of solidarity with each other. So I know what really this can do, and all this is documented through videos and elaborate research projects. So it's not left at that, but there is enough evidence which shows us the power of such forms of arts. So it is time that we undertook research to explore and better understand the impact of such interventions in promoting well-being in the lives of people. And I think the school and the Kolkata Samved should move in that direction. In the national education policy, I'm talking a little bit of, as an educationist also, in the National Education Policy 2020, the teaching of creative arts, art forms, and promotion of indigenous performing arts is given a special emphasis. And I think we should keep this in mind when developing a truly multidisciplinary framework of teaching and learning at the institute. So it is in this context also that I talk about what we can do with Kolkata Samved and their program. Now, this 2020 summit that you are holding, Kolkata Samved is holding in the backdrop of COVID pandemic, is not only a timely but a very opportune moment for us to enhance the importance and credibility of creative art forms such as DMT. And I think we need to reflect on how we can showcase this work even much better. We have heard, and all of you must have heard stories and seen videos of a lot of women and even men dancing in their own homes, and then collectively bringing together their pieces to form one video, and to just drive away the blues of COVID times. I've also seen videos of people singing coming out in their balconies and singing to a chorus, to get away from the anxieties and the fear of COVID. And all this, I know that innately there is this feeling among people, and there is this innate knowledge that when we do certain things creatively, when we give expression to our fears, etc., through, whether it is through movement of, body or through singing, it does heal us in many ways. So the transformative power of such expressive arts is limitless and boundless. And this is what we are tapping, and this is what Kolkata Samved's collaboration with us is all about. My best wishes to Kolkata Samved and to School of Social Work for this 2020 summit, which is happening virtually, connecting us with many, many parts of the world, wherever people have immense faith and confidence and interest in expressive art forms. So I'd like to welcome you all once again. And thank you, Kolkata Samved, for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to close by thanking the three wonderful, wonderful dancers who were flowing in their body as to the song of Tagore. Who else? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shalini Bharat. You made sure that you touched upon so many different times when music and dance and singing and different other creative dance forms and creative art therapies actually brought about a just community, a more inclusive community, a soothing and a oneness and a feeling of empowerment. So thank you so much. I think all of us know that we've made the right decision, making sure that we take time out and are here with you and with all the other facilitators, practitioners who are going to be joining us over the next 3 days. Thank you so much. Well, if you are ready right now, we already spoke about making sure that we are sitting comfortably in our seat and, you know, moving about our neck just a little bit. And I'm going to invite Malik, who is our digital host, to go ahead and play us some music right now. So if you are ready, let's go ahead and just warm up ourselves just a little bit. Are you? Are you? Well, thumb up or double thumbs up? Yes, double thumbs. So let's go ahead and do that. Stretching our neck a little, making sure that we're feeling comfortable to be here today. Yes, our shoulders, just drop them, lift and drop. And then I want you to go ahead and open your arms as wide as possible. Stretch out and come in and give yourself a big hug. Yes, stretch out diagonally and come in and give yourself another big hug. Stretch out the other diagonal side if you can. And come in here and give yourself a nice big hug. You know, when we are young and we are asked, how much do we want to do something? We always want to stretch our arms really big because we want to do it more than 100%. And today, while you're doing this, yes, just open and close your hands. I'm asking you, how ready are you for the summit? And I'm hoping you're saying this much. How much of yourself are you going to give to the summit? And I'm hoping you're saying this much. Yes, open your arms as wide as possible to embrace and to welcome into your being lots of knowledge, lots of understanding. Yes, make sure that as you're opening your arms, you're also stretching your back a little, making sure that you're comfortable. 1, 2 more times. Yes, maybe 3 more times because this is our 3rd Biennial Summit, right? Well, get ready. Yes, are you seated in your seat comfortably? Do you want to reach out and take a nice sip of water? Always a good thing to do. And while you're doing that, I'm now going to welcome 2 amazing people who've been pretty instrumental in making sure that the entire flow has happened over the last 2 days. The planning has happened, and they are going to be setting up the context. So we're now going to welcome somebody who is the founder director at Kolkata Shomved. I'm sure you know who that is. Ashoka Fellow, sociologist, dance activist, and dance movement therapist. A pioneer of dance movement therapy in India and South Asia, she created a pool of dance movement therapy practitioners from the grassroots level and from survivors and envisioned the Sampurnata approach. She is an international working committee member of RISE Learning Network and chair Status and Development World Dance Alliance Asia Pacific in the advisory council as well of CMTAI. You know who she is? Please put your hands together as we welcome onto our screen Dr. Shohini Chakrabarti, founder director, Kolkata Shomved. And joining her on screen to also set the context is assistant professor and convener, DMT, Center for Lifelong Learning, SSW, TIS Mumbai. She has a master's in social work and doctoral work in active aging through older adult volunteerism. Her work experience is in the fields of aging, mental health, experiential pedagogy, education, training, and curriculum development. Please put your hands together for Dr. Sabiha Vasi. So I'm going to invite both Dr. Shoni Chakrabarti and Dr. Sabia Vasi to join us and, well, set the context for the summit, the third Biennial Summit of DMT for Change. Welcome.
Thank you, Kisha, for such a, beautiful um, like address to everyone and making us constant, engaging, energized. So, okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, because I know people are joining with us across the world. So thank you. And I know some of you also, it's really, really early morning at your, at your location. So hope all of you are well. Thank you all to be part of this Dance Movement Therapy for Change Summit. So I will share with you a very brief journey of the summit. But before coming to the journey, let me briefly talk about Kolkata Sangved. I know like Professor Bharat and, Professor Maitra is very nicely articulated Sangved work and the art-based intervention in the country. But still I am saying. So Kolkata Sangved is a women-led pioneer in the field of dance movement therapy for trauma healing, empowerment, and psychosocial rehabilitation of marginalized populations. We use dance movement therapy as a tool for promoting holistic well-being and enhancement of quality of life. We work through a wide network of partners in India and South Asia, creating a pool of DMT practitioners from the grassroots level and from survivors is Kolkata Sangved's significant contribution in global dance movement therapy approach. Sangved model has known as Sampurnata. Honed over the past 2 decades, Sampurnata is a globally recognized approach today. Sampurnata is Sangved's innovative contribution to the field of mental health, gender equality, and livelihood development. And we really, really thankful to Center for Lifelong Learning, School of Social Work, and Tata Institute of Social Sciences, who really like walk a long path with us together. So to strengthen the community of DMT and creative art-based intervention in India, Sangved strategically conceptualized this summit in 2014 in Kolkata on its 10th year anniversary through a roundtable discussion. So what we have discussed? First, we have discussed about the gaps. And we found that not many people are engaging in DMT and CAT community except creative art therapists and creative art practitioners. So we have decided how we can fill these gaps through summit and build bridge with rest of the sectors. And I think that already you heard from Professor Bharat and Professor Maitra that they gave the glimpse that how this entire program is try to fill those gaps. Another area we discussed, building a platform for knowledge and resource sharing. Yes, we are trying to really create a lot of evidence, which is another, gap in this field. And third, we checked also what kind of conference event happening in the country based on this, art-based intervention, and try to ensure not to duplicate. So besides DMT and CAT community, from the beginning, our focus was to bring people from different sectors such as health, social development, education, government, medicine, donor, consulates, civil society, survivors in the summit, and create a space to discuss, experience, explore, share, and build strategy to mainstream and institutionalize DMT, creative art therapy, and art-based interventions. Also, we have decided it will be once in every 2 years. With this entire foundation, Sangved had developed the idea of the summit and shared this with the Center for Lifelong Learning, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, for collaboration. So our trust, belief, and faith with TIS was that they will join their hand to work together a path for strengthening the ecosystem for DMT and CAT for well-being of larger community. And yes, that happened. And that's why today we are here. Finally, it formally launched in April 2016, jointly by Shangbet CLLTs at Delhi India Habitat Center in December 2018. All of you, most of you witnessed the summit in Mumbai at TIS campus. And this year, definitely we are global and virtually connecting with each other. One can only become successful in achieving big dream with the help, support, and cooperation from all. It is not a single-handed job. Few people names need to be mentioned who gave their continuous inputs, energy, and effort from the conceptualization stage to shape this up. They are Anuradha Mukherjee, Sachin Sachdeva, Professor Dr. Lata Narayan, Professor Surinder Jaiswal, and our gratitude to all of you. Thank you, Professor Shalini Bharat, for inspiring the entire initiative from the day you have heard about this. Thank you, Professor Shubda Maitra, for your continuous engagement. Thank you, my dear friend, Savia, with a virtual hug for your hard work, love, care, and support, which you always giving. And in the past, this summit, when you running a summit, you need also fund, a financial support. Yes, for last 2-3 years, Paul Hamlin Foundation, Max Muller Bhavan Mumbai, Kamonohashi Project Japan, Vital Voices Global Partnership USA, they constantly supported us. And thank you very much for being with us and believing in us. Thank you all for walking the path of dream with us and help us to grow with our dream. Stay safe, stay well. Savia, rest of the things on you.
Thank you very much, Sohini, for all your expansive and wonderful words as well. And I think my colleagues, my esteemed and senior colleagues, mentors, guides and friends at the Institute and Sohini have largely covered most of the things that we would have liked to say in terms of setting the context. But just to also add on and reiterate a little is also to, the importance of working together on a summit like this is also the incentive to do that comes also from the need and understanding to bring about professional recognition and visibility of the therapeutic potential of dance movement therapy and other creative arts in the promoting of overall well-being and quality of life. When an academic institution combines with a field-based organization like Kolkata Samved, then the partnership becomes a very dynamic partnership in bringing about and lending credibility to this kind of work. And I'm so glad that it started by my colleague, Professor Lata Narayan in 2013, and then I have been able to take over that initiative, and hopefully now we are going to be expanding it further and growing in very many other ways. Thank you very much I must be very appreciative of that opportunity that has come to me as a professional in the field of working with people from different contexts. Also, combining our efforts together furthers the intention of an institute like the Tata Institute of Social Sciences to create opportunities for capacity building by enabling both educators and field practitioners to expand their repertoire of skills so that they may integrate such non-threatening, non-directive, non-pharmacological methods also into the conventional methods of working so that responses and interventions become far more dynamic and find a broader base in promoting health and well-being among the various population groups and sectors that they are associated and work with. Such alignment also I find is extremely important in advocating for the professional training in utilization of these creative arts, not only to facilitate rehabilitation among vulnerable populations especially, but also it offers a chance for transformation, reintegration, and creating livelihoods for them. So when we are talking of sustenance and uh, self-dependency, the skills to do that also are enabled to a very far extent by enabling people to engage with art-based interventions. Thus, it becomes also an empowering process, both as Professor Shubhada Maitra said, it's not only the therapeutic value, but the therapeutic value lends itself to, further developmental and growth work. I can't emphasize enough the importance of such events, especially the summits that we've had so far, other than, the program that we already have ongoing as a collaborative effort between Kolkata Samved and TIS in the form of the Diploma in Dance Movement Therapy. But all of these activities enable us to also work towards creating evidence-based data, which is extremely, the knowledge building, the professional knowledge building also becomes extremely critical in enabling us to give visibility and, once again, credibility to the need and the effectiveness of such methods in the process of, again, healing, health, and well-being. Further, I would think that, platforms such as these enable individuals to share experiences of having utilized art-based interventions in various sectors with different kinds of groups in the Indian context. This also helps us to further build indigenous data, which is extremely critical if we want to see how such methods are suitable to the Indian context and reality. And actually such methods are suitable to any context. But, actually talking about them and, writing about them gives us an opportunity also to share with the world, what are the things that are possible and can be done and beyond. So with these few words, I would like to end my context setting inputs. And thank you very much, Professor Bharat, Professor Maitra, Sohini, and all my other colleagues and friends who are attending this session and this program with us. A very, very warm welcome. And we are very happy to have you here. Hopefully you'll be able to be with us through most of our various activities that we have planned. We've tried to keep variety and constant motion in within the 3 days that we have planned. So thank you and welcome once more. Over to you, Keisha.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sabia Vasi and Dr. Shoini Chakrabarti. You could actually see it, right? You could see that the intent was to just share, to bring the best, to bring different names, to bring facilitators, practitioners from across the globe, therapists from across the globe, to make sure that you and I have so much to take back. So yes, like Dr. Shoini Chakrabarti said, that a summit like this is also meant and created to create this bridge between DMT and CAT and other therapies, but it's also to make sure that each one of us who's here moves to our next level of wellness. So we're here to make sure that we take this back into our lives. And I'm sure that you and I, we're going to make this promise to kind of pretty much a pact that we're going to be here together over the next 2.5 days, make down our notes, because we're all going to have different perspectives, right? We all come with different experience. And it's time for us to share whatever we're taking back in the chat. So what are your takeaways? What are you looking forward to in the summit? What are your expectations? Go ahead and write that in the chat, because you could already see we've been guided so far. There has been an encouragement that's coming across. There has been we know that there's a lot that's going to be unfolding for us, but what do you want to take away? Well, you think about it. uh, have gentle expectations. But where do you want to be sitting when you're sitting on your seat on a Sunday evening? What do you want to say? I'm feeling good. Well, I'm pretty sure that that is what we're going to be saying, and well invested. But up next, we're going to welcome our chief guest today, who is director of Mariwala Health Initiative. So, our keynote speaker has an educational background in business economics and international relations. Previous work experience includes livelihood related work at Mercy Corps International. Currently, serves on the advisory board of Global Mental Health Action Network, as well as on the advisory board for the Lancet Commission on Stigma and Discrimination. In line with other interests, our keynote speaker today is also a board member of Parcham, a non-profit that serves adolescent girls through sports. Finally, as an animal behaviorist and dog trainer, they also work with and train therapy dogs and mental health professionals in animal assisted interventions. Please put your hands together as we now welcome onto our screen our chief guest who's going to present the keynote address. Please put your hands together for Director Mariwala Health Initiative, Raj Mariwala. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Krisha. Thank you for that warm welcome. And of course, organizers, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really honored to be part of this summit. So as Kisha said, I'm Raj and director of Mariwala Health Initiative, which is a mental health funding and advocacy organization here in India. And our focus is mental health for marginalized communities. So before I say anything, I'm going to say that I may say things that could disturb you or upset you. And while, of course, there are going to be practice-led sessions that will be supportive, in case you would like to reach out and talk to someone, do reach out to the iCall helpline, which offers professional psychosocial support in 9 languages. That's 915-298-7821, or email icall@diss.edu. So now that my warning is out of the way, I'm going to set some context briefly. And it's likely that you, the audience, are already familiar with this, but it must be said. The topic is COVID and DMT and CAT. So COVID-19 disproportionately affects communities marginalized by caste, class, race, gender, sexuality, and disability. Now, this has been happening in terms of access to information and treatment, but also a lack of social safety nets, like lack of access to HIV/AIDS medication and inability to access gender confirmation, shelter, food insecurity. And part of this was I noticed that so many cis heterosexual, Savarna, Hindu, upper middle class mental health experts have spoken during the pandemic about a silver lining to COVID, as it has ushered in a world of less stigma and less discrimination, because people are talking about their mental health openly. People are talking about feeling uncertainty. But what about the stigma around COVID that has been immense? There has been a criminalizing of public health responses. People have been called COVID suspects, and very clearly, a glossing over of the fact that entire communities have been discriminated against and stigmatized. So there's a lot of victim blaming, which comes from a neoliberal perspective where your circumstances or your location are your fault. There has been a scapegoating of certain communities, like Muslim communities in the instance of the Tablighi Jamaat, using COVID to propagate transphobia, the common use of racist terms such as Chinese virus, especially to target persons from Northeast India, The discourse on suicide has also been problematic, especially in mainstream media, which have largely failed to address the pervasiveness of ableism and discrimination against persons with mental illness. Yet, these narratives have remained invisible to the larger populace and many such mental health experts that I referenced earlier on. This is a crisis of care. And this crisis of care has only been heightened by COVID because family, state, psi disciplines, and the larger society abdicate their care and responsibility for those who do not follow rules around caste, gender, sexuality, and ability. So COVID has, you already know this, COVID has already weakened, our already struggling health systems. People are severely affected due to the loss of jobs, no access to food and shelter, vulnerability to health issues. This means that in the next 2 to 3 years, we are going to see this massive mental health crisis continue due to unemployment, economic hardship, domestic violence, and poverty. And while this will affect many of us, persons with pre-existing mental health issues, COVID-19 survivors, frontline medical workers, young people, persons with disability, women, workers in the informal sector, the poor and other marginalized communities are going to be disproportionately affected. Now let's juxtapose this with the mental health discourse around COVID. There's an emphasis on the normality of feeling anxiety during COVID. The deciding of what is normal or abnormal, which is still rooted inside disciplines, while the self-care routine and medication that is so routinely being prescribed now continues to maintain this problematic neoliberal focus on the individual. Now, when COVID has made amply and starkly clear that mental health is also located within economic, environmental, socio-cultural, and political contexts, how do we engage with psi disciplines and mental health? How do we deal with the clinical heritage of psi disciplines as it mirrors these dominant narratives and actively propagates structural inequalities? Now, while it's clear from what I'm saying that clinical services or increasing clinical services may not be the answer, just saying community or community mental health is not the answer either. While community mental health may reside in different spaces, the influences of the asylum and psychiatry operate in mainstream spaces as well as homes, hospitals, workspaces, systems of transport. Communities themselves reflect dominant narratives. So in that case, what then does recovery or cure look like? Does it look like an absence of distress? How do we look at mental health therapies and go beyond simply filling gaps or task shifting? How do we center communities, their contexts, and provide challenges to a traditional system that may pathologize communities in a top-down fashion by critiquing the very power systems that may be reproduced in community mental health? And so this is the question or the problem that I was considering, and this is why I was excited to be part of this summit, because I truly believe that DMT and creative art therapy offer answers. They offer subversive possibilities, resistance, and counter narratives, which are all the more critical here and now due to COVID, but also due to the fascism and repression that we are seeing here and all over the world. Now, I love looking at histories, and it's very important to doff my hat to the history and looking at the roots of DMT and CAT itself. It was born and supported due to the organizing of women pioneers. Now that's the very first and critical departure from the clinical or from psi disciplines. That was something that was almost exclusively propagated by white men in power, and it is still almost exclusively controlled by old white men in power. The second critical departure is the interdisciplinary nature of DMT and CAT. For example, a variety of psychotherapeutic, creative, and kinetic principles, versus the diagnostic emphasis in the clinical based on studying those incarcerated in asylums. Now, if you study those incarcerated in asylums, you must admit that you did not study illness, but you studied social hierarchy. In that sense, DMT or CAT provides a challenge to the idea of treatment and cure that we hear of in mainstream mental health. If we take mainstream mental health, the ideas of treatment and cure are both disciplinary structures. And I will touch on this later, but DMT and CAT allow us to expand on the limiting paradigm that is treatment and cure. Third, apart from sidestepping a diagnostic clinical gaze when confronted with distress, these therapies are also a challenge to the Eurocentric worldview of the mind-body divide, not to mention overall the Eurocentric control of side disciplines. Now, within this critical distinction of challenging that mind-body divide also lies the idea that people have complex experiences of health and therapies, and we must look at multiple ways of accounting for the multitude of ways that people themselves interpret or express these experiences. Come to think of it, the assumption that mental health concerns and their impact are standardized across the globe dominates both mental health academia and mental health research. I believe that DMT and CAT can and does challenge, complicate, and inform this assumption in both theory and practice, as it does include different perspectives that are not only interdisciplinary, but also located outside of traditional mental health. And I'm very glad this is happening because it is imperative to build on such a body of work, since psychiatric and biomedical perspectives have a disproportionate power in shaping the global mental health agenda. And this is even as global mental health moves towards realizing they cannot call themselves global without LMIC participation. LMIC voices that are visible echo dominant Eurocentric mental health. And for me, I see this as another point of departure for DMT and CAT therapies. They straddle this binary of global and local is not seen as a zero-sum game, but DMT and CAT can be a set of practices that traverse cultural idioms of distress, that traverse collective ways of experiencing distress, and engage with community knowledge and sidestep access to mental health based on just language. So it's imperative not only to build the DMT and CAT voice in these conversations on global mental health, on mental health academia and research, but I don't think that we can do this without building a wider movement in multiple ways. And here I'm talking about coalitions across disciplines, communities, and movements. And to this point, I'll say the interdisciplinary heritage and roots of DMT and CAT provide a unique vantage point for that, a unique vantage point to engage with community voices and participation. And we can do that by acknowledging how systemic barriers and marginalizations specific to local realities affect an individual's well-being. And this is especially important since DMT and CAT are not as marked by the stark power hierarchy between expert and user. And so it is imperative for this set of therapies per se to challenge these structural inequalities, to counter these systems of expert knowledge, privilege, and these systems of power, but from the margins. And so now I must clarify here that everything I say from this point on, I will be talking about from my locus as director of a mental health organization, but also as a person who lives with a mental health condition and as a person who is personally and professionally involved in human-animal relationships and the possibilities within those for mutual response, respect, and healing. So how do we do this coalition building? Why do we need to do it? I spoke of disciplinary structures earlier, which takes me back to the body and the mind-body discussion. Some bodies are disciplined, some bodies are seen as wrong, and some are seen as expendable. When we talk of natal family violence and conversion therapy, or anti-trans violence on the streets, in the parliament of this country, or in DSM manuals, or when we talk of disabled bodies as less or broken, or when we talk about bodies as pure or impure by dint of caste, or in the case of so many migrant workers as expendable, and female bodies as possession, we must take the onus for advocating for these bodies and minds and build praxis holding these identities at its center. This is all the more important as community or public spaces can be hostile, perpetuating violence, discrimination, and stigma. Now, the legacy of marking, removing, confining these bodies and minds who disrupt social norms means that expressing distress related to one's gender, caste, or non-conforming behavior will lead or may lead to exclusion in public transport, workspaces, neighborhoods, violence, of course. But there's also the attempt of bodies and minds that don't fit to pass or to look normal, which can be difficult. And these can be markers related to gender, facial hair, hair on the head, but also twitching caused by medication, different time patterns due to maybe lack of work, different milestones. One may not be married. There's the whole idea of queer time and crip time and how we may not be able to conform to normal milestones. And public spaces and other spaces can prove especially hard to negotiate for those bodies who transgress. And sometimes the bodies that manage invisibility also manage staying alive. So how, my question to everyone today is, how can DMT and CAT theory and praxis be imbued with queering, with challenging ableism and using an anti-caste lens, being able to center the politics of power to build on its interdisciplinary heritage? What are the multiplicity of ways in which DMT and CAT can engage with healing from the trauma of structural violence, of structural injustice, especially as the trauma can be a conflicted, difficult, and painful process, and yet a political act? Perceiving mental health and distress in terms of bodies and minds that don't pass, that are wrong, and privilege or oppression stemming from this also lets us question whether the most visible mental health services and narratives are also the most privileged ones. In challenging mainstream conceptions of mental health, these counter narratives from the margins become a valid critique of the power systems that may be reproduced within that mainstream. So how do we consider the transformative and subversive possibilities within DMT and CAT if these schools or these therapies place the counter narratives of structurally oppressed communities at the heart of learning and as valid producers of knowledge? So I'm going to leave you all by calling for engagement with community knowledge, values, and resources from these communities in developing interventions, services, and enhancing resilience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was putting down my thoughts and then I looked at the chat, and there are so many beautiful comments that I said, let me go ahead and share a few of them. And also, Raj Mariwala is looking forward to questions, any questions that you have, and we can take them right now. But Line Henry has said, I really resonate with what is being said right now about discourses which are dominating current practices, and I'm glad that this is being brought up. And of course, hello to all. We've got Malvika who says, this is so well put. Thank you for bringing out these intersections. Sarita Chauhan says, agree. Thanks, Raj, for addressing the complexity. It needs multiple interventions. Lakshmi says, thanks for bringing all this up, reflective and influencing to act on what can be done. Fantastic. And many more with powerful message, says Veena. Amita says, very well put, and many more comments. So thank you so much for sharing and for allowing all of us to get into this space and reflect on what you just shared. So thank you very much. I'm going to look at if you've got any questions that are coming in, because if you're open to taking questions right now, would you be open to taking a question?
Absolutely.
Great, great. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put that in the chat right now, and I'm going to navigate technology, make sure that the questions don't get lost, because that happens sometimes when we've got lots of comments coming in. And yes, we've got a new message that's just come in, and we we need to deconstruct the therapist client hierarchy. And yes, we've got the messages here, but they keep so uh, so I've got a question that if I could put that one across to you. uh, so we've been talking about how DMT and CAT can actually work with a lot of mainstream treatments that are there right now. Uh, have do you feel that there is a practice that maybe you've been using, or that has worked for you, maybe dance movement therapy or creative arts therapy? Because for all of us to hear that would be very encouraging.
Sure. Thanks for that question. I actually was interested in creative art therapy over 10 years ago, and I took a course on it. So I have engaged with it in that sense. But in terms of me as a person, because of my field of work with animals, I do use animals and I train animals. So that's what I tend to use. So not DMT and CAT, but animals. And of course, I don't do this in an organized fashion, but for me, especially when it comes to my mental health, pottery is a place of calm and stillness, and that's what one of my go-tos for healing. So yes.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to a question that just come in here from Ruchira. How do you deal with the trauma of parents being competitive and a child being differently abled?
Well, I because I'm not a mental health professional, I'm going to say that one would work with the parents and the child both. Um, we are going to actually be producing or releasing a free-to-use manual for caregivers and parents of persons with intellectual disabilities. We've been doing some work on that over the last 1.5 years. So keep a lookout for that. But I saw the second part of your question about, can animals relieve or DMT relieve their stress? And I'll speak to the animal bit. Yes, it is possible that animals really may be able to relieve the stress of the child as well as the parents. But again, it needs to be done using an intervention with professionals. I really want to caution against just getting an animal and plopping it in the home. It can be extremely challenging for the whole family then to deal with another living being to take care of. So these have to be thought about very carefully. And if usually I have done such interventions, I will usually take about 6 to 8 months to place or figure out the way in which an animal can interact with that child in the appropriate manner that is good for both the child and the parents.
Thank you so much. I think you've kind of gotten all of us wanting to to maybe engage with an animal as well, because I'm thinking of, you know, my childhood when I did have so I would say my younger sister, we would call her, but yes, so much wellness that just comes into our being. So thank you so much for sharing that, and also our sensitivity when you're placing an animal in a home. Thank you for your time, for your sharing over here. Of course, the messages are constantly coming in. We use pet therapy, says Nalini. Yes, so thank you very much for your time and your sharing. You've got all of us thinking, and I think we'll get a lot of answers to what you just shared over the next 2.5 days. So we look forward to you maybe joining us and your presence. But thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
so much.
So now, what about a small break, a nice refreshing break, just for about 5 minutes. So if you want to have a sip of water, if you want to walk around the room, if you just want, a quick break, go ahead and do that. And while you're doing that, I want to ask you, do you have your summit kit at the side? You ask me what that is? Well, don't you know, it's a little notebook where you write down all your thoughts. It could be takeaways from a session, it could be what's coming alive in you at that moment. So your notebook, you've got some A4 sized papers. Blank would be nice, but if you need to recycle some papers at home, you could hold on to that as well in your kit. A pen, a pencil, crayons, and then of course a nice full bottle of water. Make sure that you're drinking water, you're staying hydrated, and you're looking after yourselves as you immerse yourself in the summit with us. And while you're doing that, let me share with you that we're moving into the inaugural panel. It's going to be truly engaging. It's going to be something that you and I don't want to miss. You know why? Because there's going to be experiential sessions, yes, along with a lot of knowledge sharing that's going to happen during the panel discussion. It's going to be something that's really amazing. So if I look at the clock right now, I think we've got just about 3 minutes to go. And while we're doing that, what say I teach you a really interesting clap? Yes, you heard right, a clap right now. So everybody rub your hands together. Yes, nice and comfortable, nice and warm. Massage your hands a little. Yes, good. So, ready? Are you? So, thighs, clap. Elbows, clap. Swish, clap, thighs. Let's do it again. Thighs, clap. Elbows, clap. Swish, clap, thighs. Again, thighs, clap. Elbows, clap, thighs, thighs, clap, elbows, clap, swish, clap, thighs, thighs, clap, elbows, clap, swish, clap, thighs, thighs, clap, elbows, clap, swish, clap, thighs, thighs, clap, swish, thighs, clap, elbows, clap, swish, clap, thighs, thighs, clap, elbows, clap, swish, clap, thighs. Feeling good? Well, hold on to this clap. We're going to use it a lot of times over the next 2.5 days. Today, from the 11th of December, 12th of December, 13th of December. Make sure that you get all your homework that you really have to do, that you've committed to doing, done nice and early, so that you can sit down, uninterrupted time where you and us engage together and truly take away as much as we possibly can from this time together. Yes? Cool. All right. Well, I want to share with you that we have the summit videos that are coming on right now. So let's take a look. Well, looking forward to the summit videos coming on in just a little while, and then we're going to move into our inaugural panel discussion. So right here at the third Biennial Global Virtual Summit of Dance Movement Therapy for Change, welcome all of you. Let's take a look at the summit videos. I like this slide as well. Yes, absolutely, which says that you can stretch out a bit. So do that. Don't just keep sitting down. Make sure that you stand up. Yes, go ahead, stand up. I'm going to do that as well. Place my script down. Stand up and stretch out. Stretch, 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 stretch. Stretch out. Stretch like a rubber band. Yes, allow yourself to loosen up your body, stretching out, stretching up. It's interesting stretching in a sari as well. So go ahead, move, pull yourself in all different directions, allowing yourself to get ready. Yes. Just stretch yourself out. Allow yourself to just feel nice and stretched. And well, if you are ready, we are going to move into our panel discussion. Now, this is special because we're going to be inviting onto our screen renowned stalwarts who've been making such a big difference. So if you are ready, we are going to be moving into our inaugural panel discussion on global views about DMT and CAT in the context of COVID-19 pandemic. So, well, go ahead, take your seat. I'm hoping that you have your summit kit at hand. You've got your pen and paper if you want to write something, if you want to doodle or draw, if you want to just share how you're feeling right now. Great. So while we are getting ready for our panel discussion, I'm going to ask you, what are your expectations? So earlier today, that's the question that I had. And we had some beautiful messages that came in. And of course, I'm waiting for you to share as well. So Ruchira says, let go of my inhibitions about expressing my core self and gently transform. Ruchira, thank you so much for sharing what you are looking forward to. And to everybody else who is watching us at home, remember that the panel discussion, the entire summit is all about an exchange. So we, and all the facilitators, all the practitioners need for you to constantly give us your feedback, your questions. And we promise you that we're going to take these questions towards the end of the panel discussion. That's going to be the format that we're following. So make sure that right through, if you've got a thought, if you've got a feedback, if you've got a question, go ahead and add that into the chat, all right, before you forget it, or into your summit notebook. Ready? Well, I am, because right now we are going to be welcoming the co-founder of CMTAI, a pioneer in dance movement therapy in India, a trained dancer, dance educator, choreographer, and author. She studied movement therapy in Wisconsin, USA, and obtained an MA in psychology in India. She worked as a movement therapist at various places and with individual clients for the past 10 years. She has received many accolades for her innovations in dance therapy and contemporary dance, and she's worked with and founded various dance theater organizations across India. It is truly an honor to welcome her as our first panelist today. Please welcome dance movement therapist, co-founder, Creative Movement Therapy Association of India. A loud round of applause for Tripura Kashyap. Well, the applause is amazing because remember, when you're putting your hands together, you're moving your body, and that's what we're about, right? We're about completely connecting. So do that. Applaud our next panelist as well, as we welcome an instructor and supervisor certificate from BTD Germany and certificate in postgraduate studies for expressive arts therapy. She has over 25 years of experience in expressive arts therapy. She has been the educational director of Langen Institute, one of the oldest schools for DMT in Germany. And she's been teaching DMT in India for Kolkata Shomved and TIS Mumbai, and in China for the last 4 to 5 years. I've had the privilege of learning from her as well. Please put your hands together for dance therapist and creative art therapist, former president of German Dance Therapy Association Germany. Yes, make some noise for Martina Piff. Up next, we welcome music therapist who has a Bachelor in Music, ARCM, MA in Music Therapy UK. Born in Scotland, she trained and worked as a music therapist in the UK, working with young adults and children with disabilities and adults with mental health difficulties. She's been living and working as a music therapist with people with trauma, disabilities, and with victims of trafficking in red light area in India since 2013. She has published her work and presented at the World Congress of Music Therapy Japan. Please put your hands together for music therapist. It's going to be amazing. Alice Lang, welcome. We now have our final panelist join us, who is an arts-based therapist from the WCCL, educator and dramatist with over 20 years of work experience in the social development sector. He founded BOAT, BOAT, that focuses on vulnerable children and adults in Kashmir, in Sri Lanka, and many other places. They have trained several street workers and children on sexual abuse and distress. Currently, they have a 10-month project going on regarding art and social inclusion with 30 children from various organizations. It's wonderful to have with us applied arts practitioner and theater pedagogue, Bikramjeet Sinha. A loud round of applause. And finally, to moderate this panel discussion, you want to put your hands together. You met her earlier today. You know I introduced you to her, but I must say we are truly honored to have founder director of Kolkata Shomved, Dr. Shoini Chakraborty, lead us into this panel discussion. And of course, there's going to be a lot to take away. So welcome Dr. Shoini Chakraborty, and welcome all our panelists. Everybody at home, let's make some noise.
Thank you, Kisha. Thank you for such a, I am a little nervous with this entire panel, with Tripura, with Martina, with Alice, with Vikram. Though all 4 of them is very, very dear and close friend of mine. And with Tripura, I have the relationship more than 23 years. years we know each other. So it's really, really a privilege. But I am also like, thanks Raj to put a lot of questions to reflect. And I think whatever I thought to ask to this panel, now I am kind of need to reframe, but though I do not have much time to do that. But thank you so much, because I think that, questioning the status quo constantly is very, very critical point. And our summit is one of the area where we focus this, that constant questions and constant, engaged without any discrimination, using, though dance movement therapy and creative art therapy has its, like it is made in such a powerful way that it non-discriminate, but we always try to consciously try to make effort how without any discrimination it can be implemented to everybody, and that is one of the major focus of the entire program. So yes, welcome all of you. But before going to really discussion, definitely we all privileged with these pioneers who are with us, Tripura and Martina, Vikram, even and Alice. Let's, am I audible or it is, am I audible? Let's start with the experiential, because let's start with our body, mind, spirit, and then we will engage with the dialogue. So Tripura, let's start with you. Yep.
Thank you, Sohini. Lovely to be here. Honored to be on this panel with all of you. And I just thought we'd start with a very, very simple way of waking up our bodies and getting ready for more movement activities from the rest of the panel. Yeah. So we'll just do a small body preparatory exercise with music. Yeah. And let's go. So just letting your head go sides. Just up and down. And round. Reach out. Let's go round. And let's reach out for something that we like in our lives. ourselves a good hug. All the best for the panel. Thank you.
Alison, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yes. So
Thank
bring
you.
the spotlight to Alison.
Thank you so much, Nidhi and panel and the directors and all of you from France, Hawaii, Spain, who are here. Um, and as a music therapist, I'm really aware that we haven't warmed up our body, and we haven't warmed up our breath and our lungs. And I just want to acknowledge before this that this year has been really exhausting, physically, mentally, and emotionally for some. And for those of us who've recovered from COVID, um, and all of us, we can appreciate how precious the free gift of air is to us. So I want to just to take a minute to do some breathing as a way of consciously taking in to ourselves that which gives us care. I'm going to literally breathe in care, breathe in the needed air that is given to us. Now, I know that we're not on speaker, and this is quite good, because what I would like us to do, all 128 of us, is to, when we're breathing out, to make a noise, to make a sound, to release something with the breath together. So when we're doing breathing exercises, we breathe in for 4 and we breathe out for 8. And there's a specific reason for this, as you will all know. So we're going to breathe in together, all of us together around the world for 4 and breathe out for 8. And as you breathe out, just start to release sound, start to, it can be a note, it can be a noise, but your breath is music and it is rhythm. So here we go.
Thank you, Alice. It's such a beautiful, kind of make us in a silence space. And now we are moving to Vikram.
Oh, hello, everyone. So lovely to see all of you. Uh, Thank you, Shohini, for inviting me. You're such a dear and long friend. We've known each other for so many years. It's so nice to see you. And Tripura, we've worked together many a times, and also these lovely friends, Martina and Alice. It's lovely seeing you. Would love to know more about your work. I just was thinking that if you all could get a piece of paper, just one piece of paper, and we're going to do a very simple exercise, and fold it into two halves. And if you all know how to make a paper boat, if you could make a quick paper boat, because it's kind of simple, it's the most easy thing to do with paper. My paper boat is rather crumpled and rough, but I think it'll do for now.
Vikram, I don't know. Please tell.
Okay, you just have to fold it in the half. Let me just unruffle it. Take two parts of that, and then make a triangle, and then with the bottom end like this.
Okay.
Yeah, and another one like that. Yes, it becomes like a hat, like this, and then you turn it like this, and it becomes like that. Can you see? If I could, I don't know how to become a big screen, so maybe I can see it clearly then. Yes, so this is it, and then you turn it again like that, make a double fold. It comes like this, and you slowly turn it, and voila, you have a boat. Did you get Shohini? Is that possible?
Yeah, getting through.
All right.
It will be possible.
Yeah? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. All right. So this is your paper boat, and you're sitting on this paper boat, and you're going for a little journey, and with a little bit of sound. And first we'll explore four directions. So right now it's in the center, and it's going towards four directions. So we're first going towards the north. So make a sound, and you go shh. And as it moves towards the north, through your mind's eye, you see, where is your boat going? Which direction is this boat going? If it's going north, for now, we'll all go north together. What does the north hold for us? What land does the north hold for us? And as you move towards the north slowly, you can turn it sideways, and you can float it, and the waves take you. The north is the great land of wisdom, and where the wise king lives. And that's where you park your boat, and you look at the northern shores, and you receive all the wisdom you can get from the northern direction. It is where the king, the white tiger, heralds this great wisdom, the wisdom of your heart. So breathe in and take in all the wisdom into your boat, a tiny paper boat, and then turn towards the west. And as you turn towards the west, you will encounter the western land where the magician sits, the great transformer. You can play with the boat in many different directions. You can rock your boat, you can make your boat fall, you can make turbulent winds now of the magician. And you're caught in a little typhoon, a bit of that. But the magician holds you because there's a lighthouse, and you slowly move towards the shore. And the magician gives you the power to transform from the mundane to the enchanted. And keep watching a boat as you fill in with magic. And now the boat can fly a little bit. And you move further with a speedy direction, like Speedy Gonzalez. You move towards the south. You move towards the south, and that's where you meet the warrior, the Amazon, who gives you empowerment. And you can hold the boat steady in the palm of your hand. And now it becomes really steady and very stable. It has now the fullness to face life because it has the warrior. It has the warrior energy, and it's now very strong. So we welcome the warrior in our lives with gratitude. And now with strength, power, and magic, we move towards the softened eastern side. And there the waters become very gentle and golden and lovely and rocks like a baby, for we meet the songbird, the lover, who takes both the bulls in its hands and holds it and cradles it like a baby, full of love, full of gentleness, and gives the ability to accept and receive everything. Now your boat is full as well as empty. And this emptiness and fullness, it now moves back to the center slowly. All right, breathe in and exhale slowly and put your boat down. And welcome to Building on Art Therapy and Art Movement. Thank you so much, guys, supporting.
Thank you, Vikram. With this emptiness and the full, both, it's such a nice, metaphor you use to think and imagine and make it possible. So with this, I am moving to Martina. So Martina, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Shohinis. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. I feel very much honored to be here from a Western country and give some of my and our perspectives. And as my dear colleagues, I also like to invite you to a little movement to begin with. So with Tripura, we started with movements of arms and upper body. Alicia helped us to breathe a little deeper, and Vikram gave us imagination, helped us to involve our minds. And I realized, oh, I've been sitting for quite a long while, so I like to invite you to get up onto your feet. Everybody, if possible, stand up, get up. And I'd like you to work with your feet a little. I turn my camera and I hope you can see my feet at least a little bit. And I'd like you to work with your toes on the floor. It's like you're moving your toes. Grabbing, crawling. Maybe you can work with the image of a little sand and working with your feet in the sand. And I like to provide some music. Hope you can hear it. Raise the volume a bit more. And then I'd like you to start walking with your feet in one spot. making a contact with the floor and your feet, and you may stamp or massage your feet on the floor. Make contact to the floor you're standing on. Using different parts of your feet, maybe your ankles, a little more your heels, your toes, move your knees with it. It's like creating a little dance starting from your feet. And if you like, you may start to shake your knees. And let this shaking of the knees travel throughout your whole body so that you can shake your whole body a bit before we sit down again. Don't forget to shake your head so that all the new thoughts can fall into place. Just shake your head a little. Okay, thank you. Inhale, exhale, and prepare yourself to sit down again.
Great. So it's a good connection with body, mind, breathing, imagination, shaking. So if I am, please, write in the chat box your feeling, how, your thoughts, your inputs. Yes, while people are writing that, I am, coming to, we will be coming to a discussion panel. And Tripura, I come first to you with a question or a reflection that what is your thoughts? We would love to hear that to what extent dance movement therapy and creative art therapy can be effective online or in virtual mode. So what are the possibilities or limitations? So if you can, reflect on this, because I observed, CMTI is doing a lot of work, online during the entire pandemic. So it would be great if you can bring some thoughts on this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm just hoping that I'm not muted. Okay. So in 2013, when we began a certificate course in dance therapy, a lot of people from other countries began to ask, why don't you do this online so that we can also participate? And I always used to laugh, saying, how can we do something like dance therapy online? And, then I realized now in this pandemic, never say never to anything. So surprisingly or unsurprisingly, I think my workload has increased in dance therapy since the pandemic has set in. And naturally, like all of us, all our work has gone online. And most importantly, because of Simtai, which, we went online as soon as the recurring lockdowns began. We have a young team who is really tech savvy, and I think it's because of them that we're able to do so much of online work. It's because of their passion, and they understand the technicalities of working online. So I learned a lot from the younger people in the team, and so in that sense, the transition to online work has worked to a large extent. And we began with doing a lot of self-care through movement. So it's a workshop. It was a series of sessions. Then we also did something called Move on weekends. And then I personally did something called Move for Movement's Sake. And we got a great response, from different people, from different age groups. And the whole team, the whole Simtai team kept doing these kind of workshops. Apart from Simtai, I also got invited by other organizations, and that also gave me the experience to kind of facilitate online. So I worked a lot with individual clients, one-to-one, pre-teens, elderly people, groups of elderly people, homemakers, corporate professionals. So these are the people that I worked online with. So quickly, let me talk about what are the possibilities before I go to the limitations of working online. I think my slogan these days has been, some movement is better than no movement. Yeah. And so in fact, we had our whole conference, Simtai conference this year online, and not a single session was recorded. It was all live sessions, experiential sessions, just like we're doing at this summit. So I'm really proud of that. Been doing a lot of self-development work, for personal growth, for wellness. We've been doing a lot of webinars, panel discussions, experiential workshops, and a lot of blended learning programs where we do a lot of theoretical training online, but we still have to get to the on-site. When there's a light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully we'll, kind of migrate on site. And what I try to do, Shohini, is whenever I want to work with a group or a individual online, is I try to have a verbal chat with them to understand what are the needs and issues. I try to get to know them better before going online with any group. And also what we've done is we've taken our movement activity basket from dance therapy, and we've really adapted a lot of movement activities that can go online. So that means that I had to sit a lot, think a lot, customize all these activities to different age groups. And also, interestingly, we also reached out to people in other countries, and smaller cities and towns in India. Like, for example, when I did dance therapy for children with special needs, accompanied by their parents and by a sibling, we had about 13 families joining in. There were people who signed up from Nigeria, from England, from Germany, from Erode in Tamil Nadu, from Mangalore in Karnataka, from Coimbatore, from Anantapur in Andhra Pradesh, as well as Goa. So you see the kind of reaching out that had happened that we hadn't been able to do before. And what I do in these online sessions is I also get people to kind of create movement rituals that they can do on a daily basis. The idea is that it's not just about working once a week, but can we practice some of these movement rituals and kind of make it a movement habit in our daily lives. And I think, the possibility of online is very important, especially for people who are living alone on their own. They gain a sense of community when they see a group on the screen, even though it's 2D images on a flat screen. But even then, there's a sense of, okay, I belong to this group. And also because there's a lot of, I used to travel a lot much before the pandemic. And I think the pandemic pandemic has kind of really stopped me from traveling. And imagine all that time that we are saving, you know. And in fact, I came up with a friend of mine, Anubha. We came up with this whole idea of Buddhist psychology intersecting with dance therapy, which I'm so excited about, that I can do something different from what I've been doing. So, and it's also given me a lot of leisure to attend other programs, to, you know, work on my own self development, my personal growth, etc. So these are some possibilities. Now, quickly, let me look at limitations of online spaces. Yes, of course, it's a problem sometimes to create a holding space online. You know, it's not like you're in a studio. It's so much easier to feel there's a space between human bodies and to feel the movement energy happening. And there are times when I do these employee engagement programs for corporate houses, and I find that everyone switches off their videos, you know, and sometimes you're just talking to a blank screen, and in spite of sending guidelines beforehand, people are very shy about being seen to move. Even though I call it movement therapy and not dance therapy, even then people feel really shy and they want to be observers of what's happening. And certain movement experiences are not really possible online. Certain rhythm activities that I've done, or trust building activities, emotional activities, because I don't want people to go too deep that I can't handle them or I can't hold them. And also things like setting personal boundaries or blindfold activities. Certain movement experiences are really difficult online, and also certain parts of certain movement activities are just not possible because they need interactive spaces. And have you noticed another thing? Online, making eye contact is so weird. You know, you're looking everywhere and you're looking nowhere. So it's like, I call it looking London, looking, you know, watching Tokyo or something like that. I find it really weird. And of course, a lot of us are undergoing screen fatigue, bad network connections. And of course, it's not impactful enough. It's not the real thing. It's the world of Maya in a way, you know, a dream within a dream of life. So yeah, so these are some of the problems, and a lot of people prefer. Many of my clients have said, look, I want to be with you. I feel this distance between you and myself. So yeah, these are some of the limitations of the online model. Yeah.
Thank you, Tripura. So in this, you know, we will come later on the discussion part, but in this world of Maya, so I really, you know, coined this, the world of Maya, and definitely some movement is better than no movement. So with this, you know, two contexts, I really wanted to come to Martina, because you are a global teacher. Right. So you teaching not only in Germany, but other part of the, you know, like India, China, and other part of the globe before pandemic. So, but what, you know, as a practitioner or as a teacher, if you can really reflect that what challenges you are facing as a teacher and a practitioner, and what challenges are facing by student and participants, or you know, in the community, or who are participating in session. So if you can bring that.
Yes, I try. So first, I think I can reinforce a lot of what Tripura already said. She spoke a lot about the advantage and also about the challenges. So I may put focus on the interacting. DMT is a very interactive technique where when we are in the studio, we dance with our clients, or we interact with the students, and we learn from the experience of the dance, and we learn from the contact in between us while we move and while we dance. And a lot of people, especially here in Germany, where we can still work in settings, speak about that these keeping the physical distance has good and bad news about it. Some people really like, especially the ones who are traumatized, to keep the distance, and that not everyone is able to come very close, so they feel much safer with the distance, with the physical distance we have to keep in these times. And others really suffer from not being able to have a closer contact, to have a physical contact, to dance hand to hand together with their partners, or to dance shoulder to shoulder together, or back to have and have the sense of feeling, oh, these hands are supporting me from behind. I experience a physical back support supporting me throughout life. So this is for the moments where we can kind of have live sessions together in a studio. And if we think of online teaching and online sessions, there is no possibility of having these physical contact, even if we are able to kind of bring our hands to the screen or to the camera and mirror our movements with our partners. So this is what I hear, this is what I experience from a lot of students of mine, from a lot of colleagues of mine, that this is the biggest challenge and advantage of these working as a DMT in COVID times. So this really interacting, being together with each other, dancing together. And then there is the point Tipura also mentioned already, is if we work online, and that's kind of, I experience it as universal. I see it in Europe, I see it everywhere in Asia. It's not everybody feels the same confident to be seen on a screen to dance. So I try to be not that shy. I try to be active and dance and role model like I do in class, to encourage people to really get up and dance and try out and allow themselves to move. And this is very challenging just online, because I can't use my body empathy for others this much. I have to guess from time to time where my students at, or where my clients at, if they shut down their cameras or they just show part of their movements. So this is really, really challenging, and it needs a lot of body empathy, a lot of willingness to just go with them, to be with them. And it's possible. I'm always astonished how much contact we can create, even if I'm sitting on the other side of the world and dancing with my students, and some of them show their videos, and it gives a sense of feeling, yes, we are belonging together. We can, if all of us will, we can create the sense of being together, dancing together, and create the feeling of a community and the feeling of not being left alone. So there are others facing the same problems, the same difficulties, and we can join, and still online we can join in one dance. So for now.
Okay, so I am bringing a reflection on empathy. So keeping that in mind, and dance movement therapy and also creative art therapy is an interactive technique. So keeping that in mind, I'm coming to, Vikram and Alice, that as both of you are working even during the pandemic throughout the time, not only online, but in the field in very, very remote location. So what is your reflection on the use of creative arts and its inclusion for all? I think like today also Raj Mariwala reflected how, it can go beyond the discrimination, because we have a lot of hierarchy in our work as well. So I just wanted to, bring like ask this question to both of you, that how you will be reflecting on that.
Who goes first?
Okay, Vikram is going okay.
No, I do. I'm not going.
No,
Okay,
no,
I
no.
thought.
Yeah, it's any of you. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I think the role of the arts, whether there is a contact, social contact, or physical contact, or whether there are no contacts, the role of the arts actually is quite varied, and we are very lucky that we have a whole variety with us, and that really allows us to do as many things as possible because we are not restricted to do one particular thing. So that gives us a whole lot of advantage than for any other kind of form of therapy. For example, I mean, I think just the fact of stories itself can really reach out and connect to somebody who's sitting far off, and to have a human contact or human voice itself is very important, and especially in these isolated spaces where we are lacking community and we have urban loneliness. And I think these are the things which really sort of matter, and we all are in our own heads actually. So the creative arts can reach this inner space, can reach this mind of ours, and have an incredible amount of connection. And in the Indian aesthetics, in a sense, it leaves you with this aftertaste which people call rasa, which both the dancers and the natya theaters know about, in a sense. And these aftertaste, this essence which is left behind in our mouth, it's actually in our minds that we are left with this essence. Coming to the point that when in during COVID times, I mean, I've just come back from a remote place. I physically traveled, taking a risk. I had gone to Kashmir, and I was working in a remote area. Well, it's not particularly remote in a sense. It's just that there are lots of militant activities, or rather, I wouldn't say. I just say there's a lot of encounters and army activities, which makes the internet very difficult to reach there. And the internets are snapshot, and there is often in Srinagar, the capital there, the state, it's about 2G. So I hardly got a chance to connect with anyone. In fact, it's incredible to see everybody so clearly right now, because for the last 3 weeks I have not seen anyone's face on screen. I could hear someone's voice, but I couldn't really connect online with anyone. So I waited to come. So I made this ironical statement that I'm coming back to mainland, because it really feels like that land of 4G and land of 2G. These are the kind of coinages I had in my head. So there, I think with little groups, and we did shadow puppetry there, and we did visual drawings, and we did storytelling, and we did 3 weeks of intense work with these children and the school, because Kashmir actually has gone through double lockdown, which means they were locked before, when the state was sort of reintegrated or integrated or colonized, whatever you call it, whichever side your your political affiliation is. But nevertheless, the state was locked out actually of internet, and then the lockdown happened, which was this double. So for almost year and a half, 2 years, the children haven't had seen school much, and so it's a critical area in a sense to work in, and to use the arts there was the children lapped it up. The parents were really happy to have the kids off their hands, and it was just incredible for me as an experience to be part of the. We all had masks, we had little groups, we had social distance, we had all of that. There's not much of COVID there as much as there is there in Delhi, but just the kids laughing and chatting, and we were doing online work too. So we were working online, and then we went offline. Um, and both experiences, the children had very interesting things to say. So I just rather like to quote what they said in their experience, because that's better. The some of the children said that it's difficult coming to school, with a lot of encounters and a lot of road blockages, and with difficulty in without the school transport, it's very difficult for the parents to drop them, and they preferred the online, even it was 2G and difficult sort of reach. And the others said that it was wonderful to be with people, and to actually laugh and paint together, and to build things together, and to be a community. And there is nothing like having social contact, or to see some friends, because they were across ages. And so it was really get to know somebody, and to belong to a group, and that felt wonderful. So it was both the sides, and it was interesting to listen to both the sort of spaces, what the children had to say. I particularly find, uh, uh, I think there are pros and cons to both. And sometimes in these times, to go and to take a risk and to go travel and do public transport and to be covered like a fruit salad and actually go somewhere and, and actually connect to people is risky, but it's worth it because you feel the joy in their faces and you feel the kind of the connection they have. But of course, there is a risk to it. But the but we know for a fact that some places we have to go and reach out, and sometimes we have to sort of take safety and precaution. So it's like Russian roulette. You have to take a chance depending on the urge and the call you have within your heart to do such things. So I don't know whether I answered your question, Shoini, but I tried. Yeah.
It's not for answering, it's for reflection.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it made me reflect for sure. I mean, I think I've been reflecting a lot in the
I
last
think
few days, but yeah, so this is a gist.
that's important. Like as
Yeah.
a practitioner, we also need to be reflect, and we
Yes, yes,
are reflecting with all of the
yes,
people who are with us today here,
yes.
even online. Okay, Alice, you.
Yeah, I was just suddenly remembering early on in lockdown, because I'm in Kolkata and I live right next to the red light area where I work. And with all the precautions, I have not gone in until the last few weeks, actually, and the last month. And I remember a mum who works in the area. Her son has autism, and she called me in distress with her autistic child, um, in meltdown mode, as the gates of the brothel had been completely locked and padlocked. His space has suddenly been um, well shut, physically shut, and he melted down. And she called the music therapist. She called me and she said, "Alice, do something." And so we I did. I just spoke to him about what he could see, what was around him, met him where his world was suddenly at, and we eventually got onto music. And he asked for Bob, the Bob song. Thinking, the Bob song. Have I suddenly become a YouTube expert? Who is Bob? Is a music therapist has suddenly become the Spotify playlist. Is this slight kind of tension in the lockdown times? And it was Bob the Builder. He wanted the Hindi version of Bob the Builder. And so we sang Bob the Builder, which broke down all these barriers of what he was physically facing and mentally stuck in, and physically couldn't get the space around him, which was terrifying for him. I have since have had very moving sessions with young people who've been trafficked, or young women who are still working, who both have been able to voice their frustration in the online setting, that it's not like using the instruments, Alice, we want to engage and do it live, like exactly as Martina and Tripura have been saying, the lack of 3D person, like as I said, I'm not a Spotify playlist suddenly. I'm still Alice, the music therapist, and we do this thing live. But on another level, it's actually opened up some incredible moments. One which I'll just share now, with a group of Nepali women, and sometimes the Nepali sex working community are moved around a lot, but because it's online, they could actually come together and have a therapy session together. And over lockdown, the red light area was closed, and so for the first time, their physiological world started to rest. and what happened physically began to happen mentally and emotionally. And over the months that I had the privilege of seeing them every week, we unpacked lots of relaxation techniques, other somatic experiences, which brought up other childhood memories of being in the fields in Nepal, maybe like tea plantations, things like that. So the therapy work has had a real gift of connection, despite its limitations in this time, and despite me not being a Spotify playlist. So yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. And you know, when hearing all of you, listening to all of you, it's kind of a, you know, question again came into my mind. It's like, you know, the life is pre-World War and the post, like pre, you know, Second World War and the post-Second World War. So like that. So how, you know, how it will be seems. So I think it's all of you, all of four, when, you know, you were talking. So you are using a blended methodology constantly, online and offline. Yeah. So do you think the entire dance movement therapy, creative art therapy, or creative art based intervention, you know, required rethinking, re-evaluation, reimagination, including their definition? So this is a question to all of you. So again, we will be, you know, anybody can pick up, but we can start with Tripura and then can go to Martina and then come Vikram and Alice. And also, like, I really would love, you know, to the participants and the audience, you know, you can share your reflection, your thoughts. I know a lot of practitioners is joining today in the summit, that whether you are really wanted to redefining, reimagining, rethinking the definition of DMT, CAT, or creative-based intervention. So to you, Tripura.
So we recently worked on a research paper. It's called Dance Movement Therapy in the Times of Coronavirus Disease 2019, and it kind of includes a summary of 5 qualitative interviews of dance therapists and trying to understand what is tele-DMT in India. So I worked on this paper with Neha Christopher, who's a dance therapist, and we also presented it at the SIMTAI conference. And basically the paper explored the effects of the pandemic, not only on the general public, but also on, as well as people who are undergoing mental health issues, as well as mental health practitioners and dance movement therapists. We also explored mental health concerns in India during pandemic. What's the scene going to be post-pandemic, both in the professional as well as the personal lives of people. And we looked at a lot of what are different NGOs offering online in relation to art therapies and, dance movement therapy. And we actually interviewed 5 dance therapists to get a deeper understanding of what are the therapeutic needs and issues their clients are undergoing, and what kind of movement experiences did they offer to these clients. And what were the physical and verbal responses they got from these clients, and ultimately what was the outcome of these therapeutic interventions. And of course, in these sessions, a lot of verbal processing happened, a lot of verbal reflection happen, because all these dance therapists were also trained psychotherapists. And we also looked at what kind of self-care, movement-based practices can therapists undergo themselves, because there's so much of psychic material that they're absorbing into their own bodies, into their own minds, and they have their own stress issues. And so based on all this, the paper was written. And interestingly, when we were writing the paper, we were looking for definitions of tele-DMT and we didn't find any. So we ourselves gave a definition of tele-DMT, which goes like this: the practice of dance movement therapy via virtual portals where dance therapists circumvent the impersonal quality of online medium, and also offer psychological support via kinesthetic empathy. Tele-DMT lays emphasis on movement experiences designed to contribute positively to an individual or group's physical, mental, emotional well-being. So that's the kind of small definition that we came up with for the research paper. And some of the needs that were pinpointed by these 5 dance therapists in their clients were, of course, as we've all been discussing, anxiety, stress, restlessness, fear, claustrophobia of being boxed in, uncertainty of the future, loneliness, a lot of boredom, a lot of questioning of what is life all about, why are we living, when is it all going to end, when am I going to die, anger issues, sadness, distress. So these were some of the issues that dance therapists found in their clients, and therefore they came up with certain techniques like creative visualization, stress release techniques, movement energizers, combining breath with movement, resilience building, coping skills and mechanisms, movement meditation, getting them to breathe and just, self-regulate. And also, interestingly, a lot of people talked about therapeutics of Indian dance forms, like hand gestures, which could be used for storytelling or just making movement sentences. And also working with props like parachute or a stretch rope or streamers or dupattas, yeah, and a lot of self-care kind of thing. So this paper is available with Sanved, and we are very open to mailing this out to people who are interested. So please do, go through the paper, and you'll get a better sense of what Shohini's question was all about. Yeah, and I've tried my best to answer it.
Yeah, again, I'm saying that we are not, it's not only answer, because we don't know answer also. We don't know all answers. That's my reflection always happen. So it's better people need to find their own answer. And definitely after the end of the summit, people who really join throughout the 3 days, they will get some resources, and this research paper will circulate, Tripura. I already circulated with few people. So yes. So now I'm coming other 3 panelists. So who will be, going next? So Martina, if you wanted to take it up with.
Yes, I'm going to take it up. So Tripura, it's great. And I really got the sense of feeling we're coming from the same field, talking a lot about the movement and the body and the self-care for the body. So yes, I agree on your topics, and I'm very happy that you investigated and wrote a paper about it. And I read some of it, and it's great. I really like it, and it's covering a lot of key points. So therefore, I'm just talking a little bit out of my practice, what I experienced within this year. I'm teaching online since the beginning of February, so quite early. I started quite early this year, and I was challenged a lot. I had to rethink of all my teaching plans, how to transport things online on a 2D level, not really interacting with my students or with my clients. And what I realized is that it's really, to me, it became more and more important to train people to dance, to encourage them to go for their own bodily experience and not be too shy to really go for it and forget about how I look like and what others may think about it. So really, if you want to experience DMT, you have to sense and relearn or learn to sense your body and feel confident within your own movements. And I had to think a lot of how do I transport that to my clients, and how do I transport that to my students coming from my own Western culture, and also how do I transport that to people from different cultural background, from different ideas of living, different, total different circumstance of living. And what I realized is, to me, it became more and more important to open up that it is okay if they shut their screens down, if they shut their cameras down so that I don't see them on screen. And I had to work on myself confidence to jump around and dance, and sometimes I feel I'm running a TV show here and I don't know who my audience is, but I go for it and hope that they will follow me and join and at least get a little glimpse of the change which can occur if we allow ourselves to start to dance, even if it's a teeny tiny little bit. I know that not all people have a big space to dance, or maybe someone else is nearby, maybe sees them and they're too shy to show their movements. So learning to provide movement, verbalize movement, the way that each one can pick up and try to do it very little, very small, so that they are not feeling blamed or ashamed, and others can enlarge it and jump around and use their space. That has been a big challenge for me. And I'm always very, very happy if some of my students or some of my clients can allow themselves and be brave and show themselves dancing on the screens or on the camera. So that's very helpful. And I was very surprised that if I can see some of my participants moving, I get a sense of body empathy. I get a sense of, oh yes, this is like, I get an idea of how they're feeling, or how would I feel if I do these movements, which is one of the biggest tools in DMT, that we can use our own bodies to get insights of how the other might be doing or might be feeling in this given moment, and I can resonate and respond to that. And therefore, I always try to put my foot down and encourage and try to engage all of my students to learn to dance and really go for it. And it's like, if I give 150% running a class, dancing with my students in class or on screen, and just forget about shyness, forget about how I look like, then I may be able to encourage the others to do at least a bit. So I'm really, what I think is, as DMTs, as trainers, as teachers, we really have to go for to train our students in their skills. And in our case, in my case, it's especially movement. They don't have to become brilliant dancers. I would never ever be able to do all these different techniques of hand movements like my students from India could do, or I have a hard time following a lot of the movements my Chinese students can do. So I have to train myself. And even if I can't do it perfect, just go and do it. Who cares about perfect? It's just for the sake of doing it. And I think that's the core of DMT, and we really have to encourage everyone to go and don't freeze, don't stop, no matter what, go, do it, try. And even it's very small. That's my idea for now.
Thank you, Martina. And can I come to the Alice? Well,
Yes, I was really struck, Martina, actually, by the 150%. And I think I can really relate in the extra work as a therapist it takes to join the client on this screen, and whatever level that is. But it takes a lot more consciousness. It takes a lot of self-work to join the person where they where they are physically at, and we can't do that physically, but psychologically, emotionally, what might be going on, what information are they giving us? It takes 150% to be of value, I think. One of the things I was thinking is we as creative arts therapists have very powerful advocacy with a client's needs, and that's a real privilege, and it's also a real challenge actually in this time of, do they need therapy? Is it something, is online therapy just not, is it going to be more stressful for them? Actually, would this break be of more value and more permissive for them to carry on their journey and return when they want to? I think that's a healthy question to keep in mind. Not and if they do want to engage, how do they want to engage? Is it listening? Is it talking? Am I suddenly, as a music therapist, or engaging in more verbal dialogue than I'm used to? Do I need to up my skill, my counselling skills, my ability? And also, as we are constantly trained in the UK, we stay within our professional abilities. We don't go outside of what we're trained in and our skill set. So all these questions suddenly come to the front. The last thing that came to mind was how this time has narrowed our senses. It's really tweaked, I don't know how to verbally say this, but it's honed, that's the word, honed our senses more acutely. We've either become more visually aware of this gap, or there's other senses that are working overtime. I work with a young teenager in the area who is blind, and we obviously don't do online video because that is pointless. We do it audio, so we do it on the phone, and I often keep my eyes shut. So what we're doing on the phone is talking, we're singing together, we're sharing songs, or we're listening to a song. She very often chooses Tagore songs to listen to and then reflect on. But the gift of the therapy work with her has been that actually COVID and online stuff hasn't really impacted her all that much, except for the huge anxiety around her. And that has come into her space, but her world her whole sensory world remains the same. And I wonder about others' experience actually, and their sensory experience of COVID, the fear physically that suddenly we have in spaces, particularly here in India, being close to someone else, going out, sharing the same air. I think these things, I'm just offering these as reflections for things, as things for us to keep thinking about, that I think are around. And as you say, Srinidhi, the kind of the Second World War, pre and post, we're still in it here. And how do we keep, I'm going to come back to this one, but the self-care is huge for us all. And if really, I think it's to keep being self-aware and to keep allowing space for us to build our awareness of our sensory world and what's impacting it and how we're doing emotionally. But I'm going to stop because I'm coming back to that.
Okay, Vikram, any
Yeah, I just had a couple of things to say. One is that there are two parts of my journey in the COVID, on this particular reality of COVID. One is, of course, working with 2G, one with children who do not put their screens on and who are in Kashmir and they have very little sort of access to internet, and then of course physically going and meeting them, which was part of the same journey. And the first part, when I was working with children and when I was working with young adults also, um, using objects and using stories and using tales and drama and using voice, that was something completely different because I discovered the whole experience of using miniatures, you know, and using small little creatures like this. And also, say, for example, I had the cat coming in, and I would say, where is the cat going to? Whoops. And it fell off. And so, I mean, where is the cat going to and who is he meeting? And then there is another person coming in saying, what did the man say to this cat? And who is this man? And so I keep asking questions and the story would start forming in the child's head. So I discovered the whole idea of using miniatures, which I couldn't use when I was physically, or which hadn't occurred to me. And I love miniatures, so I use a lot of different props and different kind of projected tools, paper, of course, as you saw, and then cutouts, and then projections, voices, using material, using image, using sound, using visuals, and all of them had an amazing tapestry in the little screen, because the screen itself became a frame where a certain drama could be played out. This was an innovation and this was an interesting experience. Also, I discovered something called visual storytelling, which I would be doing during the conference, where you paint and when you tell a story and then you use again projective tools using materials like different paper, different scrap materials, turning waste into wealth. You make things out, you install things. In a way, I think the human mind is extremely resilient as well as fragile. Both run together. It's a paradox, and we find as a way, as a species, to keep surviving many things. And I think the modern world has now had a full taste. At least the contemporary world has never experienced such a thing, where we go away in order to come together. And that's a paradox itself. That we're going away, not meeting, and then coming together and connecting, which we wouldn't have. And I think the opportunity lies in the obstacle itself. So, and I think we need to look and examine this obstacle. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of opportunities coming up, especially for arts movement therapy, because this particular genre is fairly relatively new as compared to, say, puppetry, which has been there for many years, or dance in a sense, but the therapeutic aspect, to put it into this particular format, is kind of new. So I think we are relatively new, and I think we're futuristic, and I think we can sort of really project ourselves in the future and see that beyond cognitive therapy, this is the way the world is going to be more and more, where whether we use the elements, whether we use water, whether we use anything which is there to look at healing, you know, to become whole, to look at a fragmented landscape, mindscapes, and to see how we bring different aspects of it together. And I think it's a journey, and I think all of us are now in it together, and that makes it a good thing. And yeah, and I find, and personally speaking, if the net is working, then there is a lot of things can be possible. If it is not working, and if it is 2G, then it is very difficult, extremely difficult, because not only are you do not know who you're running a TV show, as Martina said, you don't know who you're talking to, but on top of that, you don't know whether you're being heard or not, whether there's an echo going on, and then half the time it's fragmented. Then then you feel that you're in a nut house, and everything is being reflected, and it's going like there's a complete craziness there, and then it is very exhaustive. So everything depends on the internet. That's quite fragile, in a way. But I think saying all of that, I think I'm amazed at the way we find out ways to reach out, and that I think is just incredible. Like even right now when Martina did this dance thing, I thought it was amazing because I haven't I have come back from 0 degrees to like middle European Middle Ages where the cold is. You know, it was freezing up there yesterday. I came back and my body has been completely jammed. I cannot adjust to warmer place right now and finding it very difficult. So when Martina made this movement with the ankles, I suddenly felt, you know, blood flow into my veins, you know, into my ankles and my joints. And it's been so cold. I can't even, and I can't explain it to Delhiites or other people who like, oh, it's not romantic at all to have so much of cold there. And how do people live there? It's not like all lovely snow there. It's just really cold because there is no central heating. And in that way, in those kind of difficult circumstances, we had the children to move their hands, to have give them time to warm their hands in order to paint, in order to find space to express. It was just beautiful. But I'm deadbeat, you know. And self-care is like right now, I mean, I've dived into it and I heard Alice talking about self-care and I thought to myself, oh my God, I do need self-care, but where am I going to get this care? Because your mind is quite numbed out, you know, and you have to sort of thaw literally. So I think the dancing really helped, and I'm really happy to see all of you, to hear like, you know, I'm not the only one rowing my boat, you know. So yeah, it's great to it. I feel that we should have more of these conferences and connections during these times, just to have conversation across the spectrum, across many disciplines, and that allows us to see that you know, we're in a hall of mirrors, and we have a multiple exchange of metaphors, and we enter into this metaphor library, and we see that we have many things in common as well as different, and where we can learn from each other. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to really look at interdependence and interconnection, you know, and look at the view, look at how, where we as a humanity we're headed. Yeah.
Thank you, Vikram. So yeah, so it's lovely to hear all of you. I think you all very beautifully, you know, contextualize the context and also the challenges, also you know, the learning. Even before asking you, you put up. And while, you know, like I also observed, and I like I am coining the word from you, Vikram, the innovation, this field, this entire, you know, let me tell, creative field, build the innovation during this time and, you know, served the population. So it's really, really very, you know, not only nice to see, it's very powerful. And I think a lot of important messages, even in Kolkata Sangved, we are, you know, running 12 projects across the country with this blended methodology, online and offline, and going to the remote places. And definitely we are constantly reflecting, discovering, sharing, and caring. So and a strong message, I think Alice also gave, that it's very important to take care of ourselves as a practitioner, because most of the time we are providing self-care session to others, but we are, you know, not taking care about our own selves. So it is very important. And with this, I really, it's almost end of the panel. So with this, you know, I really wanted to, I think Vikram already started to talk about the way forward, because I'm not going to the learning. You already reflected all the learning. So if each panelist can, you know, maybe Martina, I can start from you, that what is our, you know, hope, future, and way forward as a global community, even in the crisis situation, challenge situation. And definitely, you know, keeping the context in mind that beyond cognitive space, beyond the clinical space, in a larger, you know, for larger community, for larger space, for holistic well-being.
I've been thinking about it, and sometimes I like to keep things very simple. And what I think is what I like to do. I just speak for my from my perspective, from me personally, is to encourage people to trust in their own creativity and to help them to trust themselves, to trust their own bodies, and come up from trying to help people to come up from out of their senses, from out of their experience, and support the becoming aware of oneself and use one's senses to interact and to communicate with others. And it's not only our logical thinking mind, there's much more. There's the heart, there's the soul, and there's the body empathy. And if we manage to do it more for ourselves as our daily routine, as our daily health care, as our daily practice, we can embody. I as a person, I as a practitioner, I as a DMT, I embody it more, and I can stand up more for it, and I can role model it better. And the more I do it for myself, the more others believe that I trust the method, that I trust my abilities, my tools, my professional tools. And the more I do so, the more it's not only my profession, it's becoming me. It's becoming more and more me. And I think if we use those abilities and bring them throughout our communities, through our families, throughout the world, that might start to invent changes, or that might start to invent new processes.
Yeah. Alice, Tripura.
Yes, I would just like to come back to something that Raj was talking about and others mentioned about the place of justice and the role of the arts in places of social need. And I think it's very clear that we've thrived. The arts has thrived through this time, and there's been such a human leveler that the arts has given a voice for stuff that people are finding so complex and so hard to put into words because it's too big. And what a gift that is to be able to do through the arts in a way that's unifying within the community. Through the arts and through therapy work, that's been something that's really struck me in my experience. That's something that's really struck me in my experience in the red light area, that it's been very unifying and a place of hope in and of itself. So if I have hope for the future, it is that we have the gift of creative arts.
Tripura, unmute yourself.
I really, it's very profound what Martina and Alice have shared. And I just want to add to that saying, I'm just looking at the more pragmatic part of it, that while we are all waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel, I think the next few months are going to be really crucial as we continue in a way, our tryst with online portals and blended learning, as you mentioned, as we've constantly mentioned. And at least the blended learning is happening in urban areas, you know. I mean, a lot of people have jumped onto the bandwagon of virtual learning. But if we're looking at smaller cities, towns, villages, we really need to dissolve the digital divide that's there. And without dissolving the digital divide, we really can't reach every nook and corner of our country. I mean, we heard what Vikram had to say, kind of challenges that he and the people that he worked with went through. So I think all of us are waiting for studios to open up. In Delhi, we have a studio of our own, and it's really sad to see it locked up and no movement, no energy. So, hopefully we'll all go back to the old normal, not the new normal, but the old normal where people come back to these spaces and physically experience and embody dance and movement and the arts. And while all this is happening, I think constant exploration needs to happen from all of us, which we're already doing. We need to think of, okay, what kind of movement capsules or art therapy experiences can we use for corona survivors, people who've come out of being a corona patient, or even the corona warriors who are actually trying so hard to keep people alive, they're protecting people, and also for people who lost their families, their friends to death. They're undergoing so much trauma, and I think we really need to develop new artistic experiences to cater to all these people, to provide solace, to give them a sense of hope and motivation to live. So I think that's where I think all of us are trying so hard to adapt, to customize to this whole, online medium, to develop new tools, techniques, approaches to work with different kinds of people. So that was a reflection. I don't think that was an answer to your question, Sohini.
So anything, Vikram, you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, I was thinking that I feel the world of material is an enormous world. I mean, everything is a material for the body is also a material, So we can use everything in the world to actually reach within, and reach outside. And I think that there are inner reaches of outer space. So one has to just sort of dive in and then dive out. I mean, I think the world is making us more inward, and I think it's not a bad thing in that sense. It is making us isolated, but it's also making us inward, and I think that is a good way to look at what it is doing to us. Um, I find it particularly useful right now to see it as a reflective time, because I think we live in a very distracting world, and I think if we sort of look, and as artists and practitioners, if we use our tools and methods to really reflect deep and deeper, and I think this is a wonderful opportunity when we're doing collective reflection. But when we do actually individual reflections, I think there's a treasure waiting there. And I think the reason why sometimes, I mean, for the first time, actually, I was working constantly and I had everything packed. And personally, when COVID happened, I realized that my work was my false refuge, and that I actually had taken this false refuge in work and had really not looked at myself for a long time. And I think this gave me a really, really good long opportunity to look at my shadow self. And I started shadow work with online shadow work. And that was very, very useful, because I started seeing things which had cost me my health, my mind, my mental space, and my emotions. And this allowed me to rejuvenate myself. So I feel this particular period has been actually a golden opportunity, a brilliant opportunity actually for me to really revisit my tools, the way I looked at life, and and I think sitting on my own, because I live alone, and sitting alone day by day constantly, allowed me to really look at my tools. And I realized all the way Vikram was running around the world and was never really looking at himself. And I think this act of sitting by yourself and forming a structure, an inner structure, is, I think, a very key important for practitioners to do, because as theoreticians, people get lost in words, practitioners get lost in action, and they get lost in the external, constantly doing, and burnouts, and overgiving, and overreaching out. And there is no space where people, at least from my tribe, in a sense, us, all of us, actually get I mean, at least for me, I can speak that I never got a chance to sit. So I think the way forward is way inward, you know.
Yeah. So thank you, thank you all for it's such a learning panel. And few things I just wanted to bring before we will be ending, because I just wanted to say all of you, all the audience who are here, you will be experiencing with Vikram, Martina, and Alice in these 3 days also. Like, with Martina tomorrow and Vikram and Alice in Sunday morning. So please join them to know more about, what it has been discussed today. And there will be more panelists. I think Kisha will be saying that. And I'm seeing, a lot of deep sharing and reflection and question. And again, I will call Kisha to reflect on that. Because I'm a little kind of, can't manage both the things. So discussing with you and then, checking on the chat box. But I'm seeing that a lot of deep reflection is coming constantly. So it's a question that whether even going, with the way forward, but constantly questioning ourselves is an important part, where I'm taking that challenge. It's a challenge to meet the need of the participants and the client or the people. Question, do they need therapy, or the therapy, online therapy, is becoming really more stressful? Because one of the panelists also putting this question. And also, like, there is the thing came that arts are giving the voice to the human need. So those are important area. And like, world is make us inward, right, in this time. So really go for a deeper reflection. Let's dissolve digital divide together. And I am really now, this is a panel to give a call to come together, to dissolve, grow up, building and connecting, emerging and grow as a community, even in the challenging and the crisis time. How we can go to the beyond cognitive space and the beyond clinical space. How we can build the body empathy. So trust yourself, be creative, be a believer what you are creating. So those are the very, very powerful message I am taking today, from all of you. And there is so many. We will put it up together and sharing with all the audience. And definitely give 150% when you are working online. So I am taking from different input, self-work, self-care, blended methodology, and collective care, collective effort. And there is much more in the body than the logical space. Explore that. So I am, ending here. And again, I am inviting all 4 of you to provide us a small experiential before going to Q&A. So take 2 to 3 minutes to what you have, said, and what we all reflected together. Because I'm saying we all, because I am seeing the engagement. You can see the engagement and the deeper connection, what you have, reflected in this panel. And we are really truly honored and very, very grateful, and our gratitude to all of you. So with all of this, let's move again with, our esteemed panelists. So we will be going here first. We will start with, the order is Martina, Alice, Vikram, Tripura.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, these are the extra online work. You have to be,
Who's doing what, when, why?
Yeah.
Oh, as I told you, I'm a DNG and I'm up for dancing. So what I like, all of you, get up on your feet again and yes, warm up a little more. We have had stuffed brains now from all of these words. Now let's shake our bodies and move and dance for a moment to kind of shake everything in place. And as we did in the beginning, I'd like you to start with your toes. I start the music, I get up, and I hope you can see my feet moving, and you just imitate what you see and do what your feet need to do if they listen to this music. Let your feet listen to the music, not your ears. First your feet and then the whole body. And when you like, you start to shake off. And then start to shake your core, your body, your trunk. And incorporate your arms. And also your hands. Start to move your hands. And dance with the idea, shaking everything into place for another moment before I hand it over. And then take a moment to calm down. Keep a standing position and breathe. Inhale and exhale. And let all the new thoughts, all the new ideas sink into your body. Let them find a place where they can live. Let go. And I think Vikram is taking over.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, just one second. All right. Can we get back to the boat again? Yeah. And can we bring it back to the center? And there, and just then undo your boat. Undo your boat. Don't tear it, just undo it slowly. And it becomes again a piece of white page. So the man sitting on the boat, or the woman sitting on the boat, the person sitting on the boat, decides to look at the universe because it's come to the center. So take a piece of pen, not a piece of pen, take a pen, and make a hole in it, right in the center. Make the hole a little bigger, and you can see through it, right? And this is the keyhole to the universe, okay? And look around you and see what you catch in the keyhole. Maybe first on the left-hand side, I see an object, a hammer, a cup. Maybe on the other end, I see a doorknob. See where you go and what you catch. What's the object you catch? You look down, you can look at your toes. You look above the ceiling and you see a lamp. You look sideways and see what other things, various things in the keyhole of the universe are you catching. Go very slowly and pick up a few objects and reflect. What does the hammer reflect in your mind? What is this hammer? Who hammers you? What are you hammering? Look at your toes when you look down, or look at whatever you're looking down and see, what do the toes mean to you? And see what the toes tell you. When you look above the lamp or look at the ceiling, if it's a blank ceiling, what is this blank wall telling you? The boat person has the key hole to the universe. The whole universe is speaking to this person, watching patterns. What are these patterns? What are these objects? What is this I collecting? And what does it mean? The lamp, the feet, the center, the above, the below, the four directions. Catch, pick, and reflect. And come back. And slowly move the keyhole of the universe. Open your eyes wide. Inhale and exhale. And see what your eyes behold. And shake the paper. And let it go. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It was an honor.
Thank you, Vikram. It was wonderful. It's such a nice feeling. Yeah, Alice, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
I have a drum here.
Yeah. Will you sing? Will you be singing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like us. We ended with something about in our discussion about the future. What we're looking forward to, and I would like all of us from France, Hawaii, Spain to try and think of one thing that we want to take from this time. One word, one sound. It could be a really hopeful sound that sparkles, or it's a word. It might just be possibility, opportunity, or that innovation. And what we're going to do is I'm going to pulse. And what I'd like you to do is to start to make that noise or speak out that word in various different rhythms. And you can change it and you can add to it, but use your voice. Speak out the word or the sound.
Ha. Calm. Waha. Waha.
Love.
Aha.
Love.
Aha. Oh. Aha. Oh. Hoo, hoo. Aha. Oh. Aha. Aha. Aha.
Thank you, Alice. And let's, with this, full of sound and imagination, coming back to Tripura, to ending the panel with the movement.
Okay, let's just do a very small breath and movement exercise together. It's just a small cool down actually. So just combine your breath with your movement. You can decide when you want to inhale and when you want to exhale. Take your right hand up. Left hand up. Both hands up. And open your hands. And hug yourselves.
With this
Thank you.
flexibility, strength, love, and care, let's open for Q&A. And I am welcoming Kisha here. Malik, can you let in Kisha? For that, so there is 10 minutes for Q&A. So I think already there is a lot of questions. Kisha, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, and there are many questions. There are so many reflections, and so much of appreciation for just being present here. So at the very start, I want to say thank you on behalf of all the participants, to all our panelists, to our moderator, and we'll move straight into the first question. This is the one that Dr. Shoini had spoken about, where Ganesh says, uh, Vikramjit in his sharing talked about the shadow work in his sharing. Is it possible? Okay, so this is another one. But Vikramjit in his sharing talked about the shadow work in his sharing. Is it possible to say something more about shadow works? It seems really interesting, says Ganesh.
Okay. Right. Okay. So shadow to gold. A shadow is basically a Jungian term. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychoanalyst, and used coined the word shadow. I mean, primarily that all of us have a shadow aspect as well as a light aspect, and the shadow is the aspect of ourselves which we can't see, and it is our the parts of ourselves which we're blind to, our blind spots, to be more precise. And in a way, it's something which costs us, and it's something which affects us, and we don't know where it is. So often in the process of human psychoanalysis, also people who are shadow workers or shadow hunters, they say that if you integrate that which costs you with what is and you integrate, you understand, you bring awareness to it, and you integrate that aspects back into yourself, you turn it into gold, you turn it into your brilliance, you turn it into your potential and possibilities. But often there are individual shadows, there are cultural shadows, there are collective shadows. For example, the COVID is a collective shadow for all of us, and so there are national shadows. We have different fascist governments now in the world. They are our collective shadows, our national shadows, which are facing us and mirroring us back. And often in shadow work, you basically look at it, and you are doing it together, either with a therapist or with a facilitator or with a ritual leader. You hold it and you go to these uncomfortable spaces where your feet is put into the fire. It is not that uncomfortable that you are feeling unsafe. You have a basic safety, and with that emotional safety, you go into uncomfortable spaces and look at yourself, and you own up to, and you name your shadow. And once you name your shadow, and once you you have that connection and you name it, you bring awareness to it, you use action points and disciplined ways in which you do not, or in which you integrate that aspect. It's like the Antichrist and the Christ are the two aspects of the same thing. So the Antichrist is actually nothing but the shadow of the Christ figure. So they are the same things. And once you integrate it, you have a more holistic and a more complete understanding of yourself. The shadow is not something negative. It's something which costs you, and it's something which serves you, and you figure out what it's serving you and what it is costing you, and you integrate that. I don't know whether I was articulate enough. I'm still learning.
Thank you. I think you've put quite a lot of light on that shadow, and kind of got us to understand. Ganesh, thank you very much for that question. I'm hoping that you understand shadows and maybe the approach to it a little better now. Another phrase, actually, before we move to another question, Nikhil very beautifully said that Martina ma'am reminds me of my favorite quote: consciously we teach, facilitate what we know. Unconsciously, we teach, facilitate who we are. So thank you so much, Nikhil. I think that you can see so much in front of us right now. Each panelist bringing so much to the table. Thank you so much. Krupa Doshi has asked, Tripura ji, can you share some light on Buddhist psychology and integration with DMT that you were talking about?
Yeah. It was a couple of years ago when I felt drawn to Buddhism, and I suddenly decided to go to Bodh Gaya and sit under this tree and kind of reflect on myself and what I needed in my life, and actually kind of became a Buddhist at that point in my life. And since then, I've been thinking of, okay, how do we embody everything Buddhism talks about through movement? Like, even for example, the four Brahma Viharas, the loving kindness, the equanimity, the compassion, joy for other people's joys. How do we kind of embody all this through movement? And so me and Anubha, we kind of got together and we looked at all the Brahma Viharas and we looked at, okay, how can we use movement to express these concepts, to kind of make concretize these concepts in our body. And even things like resilience, how do you make your body more resilient? How do you listen to stories about resilience in Buddhism, so how do you actually get them, how can we move to those stories, and how can we understand those stories better through our movement? And lastly, maybe even gratitude. I feel sometimes we don't feel enough gratitude for everything that we have in our lives, and Buddhism talks a lot about gratitude. So that last cool down that we did, that was what was going on in my mind. Can we do a namaskar and feel the gratitude for everything that we have so far? So yeah, it's that's where I think Buddhist psychology perhaps intersects with movement therapy. And we are using a lot of movement experiences from movement therapy to really embody these concepts so that we can understand these concepts better. It's not just at a cerebral level, it's not just at a verbal level. We need to experience it through the body. Yeah.
Well, that's where we're at. We're trying to integrate everything into the body so that at the end it is something that stays with us. And I loved it when Martina shared about even shaking your head so that all these new thoughts, these new learnings actually fall into place. And so I'm going to move on to the question that I was going to ask earlier. This is the one that is from Ganesh, and it's open to any panelist who would like to take it. It says it is very important for the therapist to be able to trust the person that is on the other side, but during the process of the therapy, clients could have a cathartic process. And how would we as the therapists be able to moderate that process? So because of this entire technology divide that's happening right now.
I think Martina, yeah, you can go with this.
Yes, I've been looking at the question because I saw it twice. It's a little, I'm coming from a Western perspective and from very modern psychotherapeutic point of view here. So we are trying to kind of, it sounds a little judgmental, but it's not. We're trying to avoid these cathartic processes. We're trying to help the clients to be in control, and especially to be in control of situations and not losing control. So what I can say, which is just briefly because of timing, and this is kind of, to me, it seems like it's referring to working with people suffering from trauma of every kind, is we trying to help them to get back into control. And what we know from modern science, we can prove it from science, that a cathartic process is not really helpful. It's more or less reinforcing trauma, and we're trying to avoid and interrupt as soon as possible and work for the control, going back to control, and help clients, participants, and even in group cycles, we help and work very early on to be able to control the situations. Trauma is loss of control, and in therapy, the first thing is what we're doing. We're working for safety, and part of safety is I am able to control the situation. I'm able to control my own body, and I'm ahead what is happening here. So this is very brief, very short, and I see my colleagues nodding, so maybe you can add on, because I think it's important.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing, that definitely from here actually strength-based perspectives come into the entire work. I think both Martina and me are tomorrow in our experience series, so we can talk there a lot. like experience a lot. So so that's I just wanted to add. Yeah, Alice.
Quickly, I would really agree, Martina. Um, the question what really struck me actually. I wanted to flip the question and just say that it takes an awful lot for a client to trust the therapist, and it's not the control really is something that we very often need to keep relinquishing. It's not about us, it is about their choice to continue to engage, and we're continuing to have a platform, provide a screen, um, where they can engage with intention, and we working 150% will be able to clock when somebody's intention has gone cathartic, or the engagement has loosened. But our gift is to be present where they are in control and where they trust, um, and it's our job to continue to work empathically to build that trust safely for them.
Yeah. Just wanted to say a little bit on the idea of release and catharsis. Normally, if it is the reason why it's kind of people sort of are suspicious in terms of not wanting to go to cathartic spaces because it can flood and someone with a lot of emotion. So it's best that we do what is called titration and in piece by piece release in terms of sensation work. So when you tap the floor a lot, or when you look at the heat discharge, or when you look at a little bit of tremors, those are better to look at, and to look at seeing how little by little you sort of release from the body rather than a lot, or so not to overwhelm the person. However, saying that, there is something, I don't know whether we normally not talk about it in PTSD, because I work in an area of conflict where PTSD is a lot, post-traumatic stress, there's a lot there. There is also something called post-traumatic growth, not only just post-traumatic stress, and which a lot of people often don't talk about. So it's also important to see where people in groups are building resilience, especially those who have come out of torture, out of a lot of intense, seeing a lot of blasts and grenades and a lot of other things which are like horrifying. So see how they build resilience. And I think resourcing them and making them, helping and resourcing, using the creative arts as a resource aspect to help them give positive and good memories is very important here to build more resilience. So I think release and then resource, release and then resource allows us to sort of, make the person much more empowered and in charge. I like the word in charge because they constantly feel things are happening to them, like they're a victim and they have no sense of control and agency. So if they are in charge, then it allows them to feel clearer and more surer and more stronger than ever before. Actually, there's a growth there. That's what I want to say.
Well, I think
Yeah, Kisha.
I think there are a lot of comments, and we thank all our participants for sharing. I'm going to hand over to our moderator, Dr. Shohini, to conclude the panel.
Yeah, like I really don't wanted to say too much, so I think I already said. So with this hope, with this possibility, with this future, we need to grow the community together. And I think Kisha already concluded the panel, but I think now we have to move forward to end the day. I already thanked the panel and thanks so everybody. So I think I draw the conclusion.
So thank you so much, Dr. Shoini Chakrabarti. Thank you, each and every panelist. I think you brought in thoughts, ideas, sharing from so many amazing perspectives, and it's given us a lot to take back. I'm glad that the panel is ending at 7:30, and we're going to be meeting at 10 tomorrow. So it's going to give us a night to have a sleepover, and that's always a good thing to have ideas and thoughts kind of settle down and see, if we felt met, if expectations have felt met. And we're going to look forward to meeting some of our panelists over the next 2 days. So, well, everybody at home, please put your hands together for Tripura. Kashyap, thank you so much for your time and your presence here. We're going to take back gratitude and looking forward. A lot of participants are looking forward to reading the paper that you've put together. Thank you so much, Bikramjit Sinha. You've made sure that we're all feeling a little cooler because I'm in Mumbai. So even though you've come back with the cold, and the keyhole to the universe, I think I'm going to keep gazing through it and seeing what I see. And thank you so much. Alice Lang, I couldn't stop singing even after, you paused creating the beat. And I think you've given me a note to take me uh, and take me over to tomorrow. And thank you for the music. And Martina Piff, always wonderful. It my entire body is energized every time I see you move, because I'm always trying to mirror um, you know the way that you're moving. So Dr. Shoini Chakrabarti, you're an inspiration, and you've given us not just learnings but so many reflections as you moderated this panel discussion. So to each and every one of you for your presence here today, thank you so much. And
For beautifully holding the space, and you will be doing that for next 2 days.
that's correct.
So I just wanted to add DMT practice as human rights. Come tomorrow 10 o'clock. Who wanted to experience?
Thank you so much. So everybody who's joined us today, for your presence on the chat, you've made such a big difference. And we're thanking each and every one of you for joining us in anticipation tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We'll be together till 1:30 and then meet again between 4 and 8. Look after yourself, sleep well, drink a lot of water. Enjoy this evening, enjoy your dinner, and we're going to see you back tomorrow. So well, this is it, the third Biennial Summit. It's virtual. This is Dance Movement Therapy for Change. We're going to see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Till then, well, you stay well.
Bye. See you.
Bye.